I was a broke taxi driver when a one-star review made me worth $28 million. That was how the Fairfare system started turning me into a billionaire. It gave me 30 days to cross $1 billion, or every reward vanished. Crownline Hotel Group, 28%, control value, $28 million. Hold a legitimate boundary. Receive an unfair one-star review. The system paid with leverage tied to that problem. 90 minutes earlier, Curtis Dempsey was still my boss. He erased my name from a campaign worth $180,000. He called poor employees powerless. I quit before he finished smiling. The conference room showed exactly what he had stolen. Curtis stood at the head of the Dempsey Creative Conference table. My campaign filled the wall screen behind him. Every page carried his name. Mine had disappeared. He smiled and slid a thin envelope toward me. $5,000, Curtis announced. Take the bonus and be grateful. I left the envelope where it was. The commission was $180,000, I told him. You promised it when I landed the account. Curtis tapped his name on the screen. The client hired my company. Poor employees do not own company work. Then he pushed a release form across the table. The first line called the campaign his original concept. The second line made my $5,000 conditional on signing. I tore off the signature page and placed it under his coffee. Curtis's assistant stopped typing. The three coworkers nearest me suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. Curtis lowered his voice. Sign it, or I tell every agency in this city you stole from me. You already stole it, I told him. Threatening me with your autobiography feels lazy. His coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. Curtis's assistant slid the release form away and tucked both hands beneath the table. I stopped smiling. He had taken 6 months, my name, and the money I needed. 2 coworkers stared at their notebooks. A third watched Curtis like applause might earn overtime. Curtis leaned back. You can keep your desk if you apologize for making this awkward. I opened the cardboard box beside my chair. Curtis laughed when he saw the folded go-cab jacket inside. I had registered as a driver during the last payroll delay. Apparently my emergency plan amused him. You are really going to drive strangers around? Curtis asked. I put on the jacket. I would rather drive strangers than carry you. His smile twitched. I dropped my office badge on the $5,000 envelope. Then I packed my laptop, 2 mugs, and the original campaign notebook. Curtis pointed at the door. Walk out now, and you will never work in advertising again. I already did the work, I told him. You just stole the name. Then I walked. Alyssa Kern, my girlfriend, waited at the curb in a silver dress. Then she saw the box in my arms. Her eyes moved from the box to my go-cab jacket. You quit? Alyssa demanded. He stole my campaign and commission. Alyssa checked the time instead of my face. Curtis has the client dinner at Crownline in an hour. You picked today to become unemployed? She knew the dinner time without asking. You were still going? I asked. Alyssa lifted her chin. I need people with a future around me. I cannot keep drowning because you need credit for everything. The campaign had my work, my nights, and my name until Curtis deleted it. Wanting credit was apparently a character defect now. Alyssa removed my apartment key from her purse. I need a man who is going somewhere. She placed the key on my box. Then she noticed the campaign notebook sticking out beside it. Give that back to Curtis, she warned. Do not make this uglier. It has my handwriting on every page. Alyssa glanced toward the office windows. That will not matter once he tells people his version. She had chosen the version with the nicer dinner reservation. Then she stepped into a waiting car, and I did not chase her. I put the box in my trunk, opened GoCab, and accepted my first ride. The pickup rule gave passengers 10 minutes. I waited all 10. At minute 11, the rider called. I am coming down, the passenger snapped. Move that timer back. I kept the timer visible. I cannot move it, the passenger barked. Then wait. I ended the call. You used the 10 minutes. The passenger threatened a 1-star review. I canceled anyway. He appeared 2 minutes later, waving his phone like a weapon. You just lost your first job, he shouted. The passenger yanked my rear door handle. I had already locked it. He slapped the roof and promised to report me for abandoning him. A crossing guard watched the performance and slowly moved 1 step away from him. The rider ordered her to stop me. She pointed at the expired pickup timer on my screen instead. I drove off while he filmed my license plate. His review hit before he finished the sentence. Qualified review, TEN minute pickup limit you held. Then the Crownline reward appeared. $28 million of hotel ownership sat on my phone while the man who caused it kept calling me broke. Beautiful timing. The system added one final line. Deadline, 30 days. Target control value, $1 billion. I accepted the deadline. My regular bank balance still showed $63.14. Apparently hotel ownership did not buy gas by telepathy. The GoCab app flashed another request while the new shareholder screen sat behind it. I owned 28% of a luxury hotel and still needed the next fare. I took the fare. My next passenger appeared before I could enjoy the reward. The passenger was Tatum Vaughn, a sharply dressed woman standing outside a downtown office. She entered with a phone in one hand and a hotel reservation in the other. "Crownline Hotel," Tatum ordered. "I am already late." The route showed 16 minutes. Tatum pointed toward a red transit lane. "Use that. It cuts 6. The lane is closed to cars. I will cover the ticket." I kept the car straight. "You cannot cover my license." Tatum looked at my name on the dashboard. "Derek, I am paying for speed. You are paying for a ride." Her stare sharpened. "Take the lane." I stayed on the legal route. Tatum opened the review screen before we reached the hotel. She typed while the navigation app counted down the legal route. "Last chance," Tatum warned. I pointed through the windshield. A city camera hung above the closed lane. "You can rate me from the back seat," I told her. "The ticket would follow me home." Tatum pressed her lips together and kept typing. That was her warning. Mine was the posted road sign. At Crownline, a man in a tailored suit waited beneath the entrance lights. He was Tatum's blind date, Holden Gable, and he looked offended by the existence of my taxi. Tatum stepped out. He refused the shortcut. Holden glanced at my GoCab jacket. "Then he made you late on purpose." "The lane was closed," I told him. Holden slipped an arm toward Tatum's back. She moved before he touched her. He covered the miss with a laugh. Then he flashed a folded bill before handing it to the valet. "Keep the taxi away from the front," Holden instructed. "We have photographs coming." The valet looked at Tatum instead. She gave him no answer. "File the review," Holden urged. "Drivers learn when consequences hurt." Tatum pressed 1 star. The screen asked whether I had endangered her. She selected yes. That was ugly enough. Holden made it worse. He ordered the bell captain to bring me inside and force a public apology. I could have driven away. Instead, I followed them through the doors of the hotel I now partly owned. I wanted to see whether $28 million opened a real door. The Crownline lobby held Curtis's client dinner near the mezzanine. My stolen campaign glowed across another wall screen. Curtis saw my jacket and laughed loud enough for the table. "You followed me here?" Curtis called. Begging got fast. Alyssa turned from the client table. Her expression carried the same pity she had used at the curb. Tatum looked between us. "You know him?" Curtis raised his glass. "I fired him this afternoon." He quit." Curtis kept talking. "Naturally, he became a taxi driver because nobody else would hire him." Holden's smile widened. My humiliation had just acquired sponsors. "Perfect," Holden told Tatum. "Your review might save the next passenger." Hotel worker approached with a seating card. Holden reached for it. The worker moved past him. First, he lifted Holden's place card from the head of the lounge table. Then he moved Curtis's client 2 seats away from the campaign screen. Holden watched his name travel toward the end of the table. Curtis watched the client follow it. The worker placed a blank card at the head and pulled out the owner's chair for me. I sat. Holden stared at the chair. "That seat is reserved," I noticed. Curtis slapped his palm against the table. "Get up before security drags you out." Alyssa stepped closer. "Derek, stop embarrassing yourself." The bell captain lifted Holden's black key card from the table. Holden snatched for it. "Do you know who my family is?" The bell captain kept the card out of reach and looked at me. "Mr. Halstead, which guests would you like removed?" Curtis stopped breathing through his smile. Holden gave one sharp laugh. "This is a joke." The bell captain faced the room. "Mr. Halstead controls 28% of Crownline Hotel Group." Silence lasted 1 clean second before everyone tried to save themselves at once. Curtis called me his best employee. Holden blamed the staff. Alyssa renamed the breakup a misunderstanding. The client at Curtis's table closed the campaign folder. "You told us Derek approved the final credit." Curtis pointed toward me with a shaking hand. "He is emotional. We can discuss that later." The client pushed the folder back. "Discuss it without our account." The client carried the campaign folder toward the exit before security moved. Tatum closed the 1-star review and faced Holden. Holden pointed at me. "He is still a driver. Remove him before I move my family's money." I looked at the bell captain. "Take Holden's keycard. Cancel Curtis's dinner access. Escort both men outside." The bell captain nodded. Holden grabbed Tatum's wrist. "You are leaving with me." I caught his forearm before he pulled her. "She answered you by moving away," I told him. "Lose the hand." Tatum ripped free herself. "Do not touch me again, Holden." The valet stepped away from Holden. 2 staff members closed around him. Curtis tried to hide behind the client table, but the client pushed his chair back first. Curtis had entered Crownline claiming he owned my work. He left carrying his own campaign folder while hotel staff escorted him out. He kept arguing. Nobody slowed down. Alyssa stayed. She touched my sleeve. "Derek, I left because I wanted you to fight for your future." Tatum heard every word. "So you helped by attending his dinner?" Tatum asked. Alyssa's face tightened. This is private. It became public when you laughed at his jacket. Alyssa turned back to me. Her voice softened so quickly it deserved a speeding ticket. We can fix this. I pulled my sleeve from her hand. She caught my fingers and sank to her knees beside the owner's chair. The money felt good. Her timing did not. I made a mistake, Alyssa pleaded. You know I love you, reminded her. You needed a man with a future. Alyssa gripped my fingers. I was scared. I nodded toward the door. Be scared outside. The bell captain opened the door. Alyssa stared at Tatum before she stood. Jealousy arrived right after regret. Efficient woman. She followed Curtis toward the entrance, still trying to explain herself to people who had stopped listening. Tatum remained beside the table. I filed the review because you refused me, she admitted. Holden turned it into a weapon. You gave him the weapon. Her jaw tightened, but she nodded. I can delete it. My phone vibrated because the Fair system had already judged it. Qualified review. ILELELELESEC. Refused. Rivergate Tower, full ownership. Control value, $100 million. Tatum watched my expression. What happened? I got my next destination. Curtis had dropped his campaign folder during the escort. One page remained near the elevator. It was the lease for Dempsey Creative. The Rivergate address on my screen matched the address printed at the top. At 4:37 in the afternoon, I walked into Rivergate Tower carrying the taxi jacket Curtis had mocked. The boss who stole my campaign looked up from my old desk and grinned. You came back quickly, Curtis announced. I knew driving would break you. I set my phone on the conference table. You have 23 minutes to pay the $180,000. 60 workers could hear me through the glass walls. Curtis checked their faces before he answered. He rose slowly. You quit. You get nothing. Megan Doyle sat nearest the campaign screen. She was the coworker who kept looking at me while everyone else watched Curtis. Dustin Astor stood beside the supply cabinet. He had helped me carry client boards after midnight more times than Curtis had entered the office after lunch. Seth Dre leaned against Curtis's desk. Seth had built a career by laughing half a second before the boss. Curtis opened a drawer and produced another envelope. $10,000, he offered. Sign the release, apologize, and I may let you freelance. I checked the wall clock. 22 minutes. Seth barked a laugh. He thinks he is negotiating. I am timing an eviction. Curtis's smile thinned. He pointed at the campaign wall. Every person here will confirm that concept was mine. Nobody moved, so Curtis looked directly at Megan. You heard me develop it. Megan closed her notebook. I heard Derek present it. 3 chairs shifted toward Megan. 2 people lifted their eyes. Curtis slapped both hands on the table. Your mother's insurance runs through my company, Megan. Choose your memory carefully. Megan's face went still. Her mother was Eileen Doyle, the teacher we still called Ms. Doyle. She made us write our names on every page before submitting anything. She had taught me that honest work deserved a visible owner. Megan's phone lit with a message from her mother. She turned the screen face down before Curtis could read it. Curtis noticed the movement and smiled. Insurance disappears with employment. Think about what your mother needs. Megan stood and placed her office badge beside his envelope. My mother needs me to stop working for thieves. 3 workers looked down at their badges, and I stepped between them. Threaten me, I told him. Leave her mother out of it. Curtis pointed toward the exit. Security will remove you before 5. Call them. He did. The building line rang on speaker. Curtis demanded guards and described me as a violent former employee. A calm voice answered, the owner is already on the floor. Curtis stared at the phone. I smiled. Convenient. He hung up and reached for my phone, so I moved it 6 inches away. Curtis grabbed a heavy desk award and threw it through his own monitor. Glass cracked. The office jumped. He pointed at me before the pieces stopped falling. Everyone saw that. Derek destroyed company property. Seth nodded so hard his neck almost filed for overtime. I saw it, Seth announced. He attacked the office. Dustin folded his arms. Curtis, you threw it. Curtis locked the main doors with his badge. $5,000 to anyone who takes his phone, he shouted. $10,000 if you hold him until security arrives. Nobody reached for the money, so Seth rolled up his sleeves. Megan stood first. She pushed Curtis's unopened cash envelope back across the table. Pay the overtime you already owe. Payroll clerk opened a drawer and pulled out a stack of sealed envelopes. She spread them across the conference table. Each one carried a worker's name and 3 months of excuses. One by one, people placed Curtis's bribe offers beside them. Curtis turned on Dustin. You have rent, debt, and no savings. Do not play hero for a man who left you here. Dustin took the $5,000 envelope. Seth smiled too early. Then Dustin ripped the envelope in half and poured the bills onto Curtis's broken keyboard. I stayed because the team needed the paycheck, Dustin told him. You stopped providing that part. The nearest designer set her badge beside his. 3 more followed. Nobody touched me. Seth looked around. Nobody stood beside him. He stepped forward anyway. Curtis did not. I caught his wrist before he reached my phone and guided his hand onto the release form. "Sign for the 5,000, I told him. "You earned the role." Dustin laughed first. The rest of the office joined him. Seth yanked free, red to the ears. Curtis hit the locked door controls again. "None of you leave until this thief is detained." A master key turned from the hallway. The Rivergate superintendent entered with 2 building staff members. He walked past Curtis and stopped beside me. "Mr. Halstead, do you want the tenant removed now or at 5? Curtis's face emptied. Curtis jabbed his badge toward the reader. The light flashed red. I touched my new owner passed to the same panel, every glass door unlocked. The nearest workers turned their chairs toward me. A building employee wheeled an empty lockbox through the door and began collecting Rivergate access cards. He started with Curtis's private elevator pass. Curtis clutched it against his chest. "That pass came with my lease." The employee held out his hand. "The owner canceled it." Curtis looked at me. I pointed to the lockbox. He dropped the pass inside. Interns had begged for that elevator, so I watched it hit the bottom. I looked at the clock. 17 minutes. Curtis rushed toward the superintendent. "This man is impersonating the owner." The superintendent removed the Dempsey Creative Access plate from the desk and handed it to me. "Rivergate Tower belongs to Derek Halstead." Curtis staggered back into his broken monitor. His fake frame had become expensive furniture damage inside my building. I gave the superintendent one instruction. Workers keep access to collect personal items. Curtis loses command of every door at 5. He switched tactics so fast he nearly pulled something. Curtis lowered his voice. "Derek, we can settle this privately." I faced the workers he had threatened. "You made the theft public." Curtis jabbed a finger at himself. "I built your career." I tapped the campaign screen. "You deleted my name." Curtis lowered his voice. "Fine, 20,000, 16 minutes. He raised it to 50,000, and I looked at the wall clock. He raised it to 100,000 and offered my old title back. His offers kept rising. His badge stayed dead. Megan's phone rang in the middle of his panic. The regional client Curtis had scheduled for a launch review was calling. He reached for the phone. Megan answered first. The client heard glass under Curtis's shoes and asked whether the account was safe. Curtis shouted, "Tell them I am handling it." Megan walked into the empty suite across the hall. "I am handling it," she told the client. "Give me 48 hours, and I will give you the launch you paid for." The client asked who would lead the work. Megan looked through the glass at me. "I will." The client gave her a brutal condition. 1 page by 6, 1 campaign line. Miss either and we walk. Megan turned toward the workers, still deciding whether to cross the hall. "You heard the deadline," she called. "Who wants their name on the first page?" A designer picked up her laptop. An account worker grabbed the client notes. Dustin carried the whiteboard across before Curtis could block him. The client listened to the movement. "Send the plan by 6, the voice decided. "We stay with Megan." Curtis had just lost a client to a company that did not have a sign yet. I tossed Megan the key to the empty suite. "Curbside Media opens now." She caught it with one hand. Dustin grabbed my old cardboard box from beside the conference table. "Founder furniture?" "Executive storage," I corrected. He carried it across the hall. Curtis blocked the doorway. "You cannot take my staff." I looked past him at the workers. "I am not taking anyone. They can choose." Megan crossed first. Dustin followed with the box. The payroll clerk came next, carrying the unpaid envelopes. Then the office moved. Designers, assistants, account workers, and editors walked past Curtis without asking permission. Some carry personal laptops, others took only their mugs and their names from the wall schedule. Curtis tried to buy the procession back. 20% raises for anyone who stays," he shouted. The payroll clerk stopped beside him. "You still owe us the last raise." She carried the overtime envelopes into Curbside. The rest followed the money he had already failed to pay. Inside the new suite, Megan pointed people toward empty desks while finishing the client call. Dustin dragged in the whiteboard. A designer wrote the 6 o'clock deadline across it. Curbside had existed for under 3 minutes. It was already busier than Curtis's office. Seth stayed beside Curtis until the room was nearly empty. Then he hurried across the hall and dropped to his knees in front of me. "I was following orders," Seth pleaded. "Give me one chance." Looked at the empty office behind him. "You volunteered before Curtis finished offering money." Seth reached for my chair. "I can bring clients." I pulled it back. "You bring whoever is paying nearest." Seth grabbed the leg of my chair. Dustin placed the cardboard box between us. "Applications go in there," Dustin told him. I nodded toward the hallway. "His does not." Seth stood slowly. He kept his eyes on the floor while everyone watched. He tried one final angle. "I know where Curtis keeps the regional client's launch brief." Megan lifted the folder from the cardboard box. "Dustin moved it after the client chose us." Seth closed his mouth. He looked at Curtis. Curtis looked away. The parasite had found an empty host. At 4:58, Curtis made his last play. There was never a commission promise, he shouted. He owns the building because of some scam. That does not make his lie true. Every chair now faced Curbside. I opened the cloud recording. Curtis's voice filled both suites. Land this campaign, Derek, and the full $180,000 is yours. Your name leads the work. The recording ended. The client on Megan's speaker asked Curtis one question. Whose campaign did you present at Crownline? Curtis stared at the dead monitor. He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. The superintendent checked the clock. 5 o'clock. Building staff rolled a security shutter across Dempsey Creative while Curtis was still bargaining. The payroll clerk's screen lit green. Dempsey Creative's retained client funds released the overdue wages and my commission. 60 phones chimed through the hall. My own bank balance jumped by $180,000. Curtis heard every notification. He flinched at the first chime. By the 10th, he was shouting. He rushed toward me. You cannot destroy my company over one disagreement. You destroyed it over one signature. The shutter reached the floor. Curtis's badge died in his hand. Across the hall, Megan taped a temporary paper sign to our new glass door. Curbside Media. The letters were crooked. Before the tape held, the first client sent its launch deposit. Dustin placed my old cardboard box on the center desk. The same box Alyssa had treated like proof of failure now held our first signed work order. I had my commission, a company, and workers who had chosen their own side. My name was still missing from the stolen campaign. Then my face flashed across Rivergate's rooftop screen. Megan's client called again. This time, the voice sounded cautious. Pause the launch, the client warned. You need to see what is playing outside. Video filled the rooftop display. The clip showed me catching Seth's wrist, then cut straight to Curtis's shattered monitor. A title called me a violent taxi driver faking ownership to attack a former employer. The edit was filthy. It was also fast. The first client's logo appeared beside the smear, making it look like they sponsored the accusation. Their representative cursed through Megan's speaker and froze the launch deposit. Megan did not plead. She turned the phone toward the screen. Give me until the live feed ends, she told the client. Then decide which agency stole your name. The deposit stayed frozen. The account stayed open. Barely. Seth appeared on the screen from the roof wearing a borrowed suit and holding up my GoCab profile. Derek Halstead fooled one building, Seth announced. By midnight, GoCab will erase him everywhere. By sunset, Seth's smear was looping above Crownline Hotel. Holden Gable had booked my taxi to carry his proposal gear from Rivergate. At the hotel, he paid me $300 to stand beneath the screen with his banner. He was the blind date Crownline had thrown out that afternoon. Apparently, public humiliation had inspired event planning. Holden pressed the bills into my hand. Hold the banner, keep your mouth shut, and leave when Tatum arrives. A producer counted down 12 minutes until the live proposal. Holden had tied a $500,000 advertising commitment to Tatum, saying yes. If she refused, his family name failed in front of the same client now judging Curbside. He had built a public trap with money, romance, and my stolen work. Very ambitious for a man who still owed Crownline a key card. I counted the bills. You are paying for 10 minutes. Holden pointed at my jacket. You drive a taxi. I pocketed the cash. Then you understand metered labor. Holden's jaw tightened, but the cameras were already live. His producer kept framing the GoCab logo on my chest. Holden pointed at a second banner beside my feet. It accused me of lying about the office attack. Holden pointed at the second banner. Hold that one after the proposal. My driver will film your apology. I left the pole on the ground. I did not lie. Holden raised his phone. Your GoCab account disagrees. I held his stare. My GoCab account has not spoken. Holden lifted his phone. It will. He filed a 1-star report claiming I had threatened him during the short ride from Rivergate. The fare system appeared across my phone. Qualified, review, false confession, refused. Something solid dropped into my jacket pocket, a black key fob. The reward notice showed full ownership. I closed it before reading the vehicle description. The rooftop stage overlooked the Crownline entrance. A black hypercar sat below with a silver ribbon across its hood. Holden's photographers kept circling it. Every 30 seconds, the giant screen played Seth's edited office clip. My hand caught his wrist. Curtis's monitor shattered. The cut made those separate moments look like one attack. Curbside Media's first client watched through Megan's phone. Their launch deposit remained frozen. Megan's voice came through my earpiece. The screen uses the exact campaign line I gave them at 4:42. Curtis had heard her through the glass wall. Now Holden's proposal screen carried her words. Credit theft had become his only reliable skill. I left the key in my pocket. Letting him talk was free. Holden smiled at my silence. He pointed toward the hypercar. That is Tatum's engagement gift. When she sees what I can give her, this circus ends. Your key works? Holden smiled. Of course. I tucked his cash away. Good. Tatum arrived 2 minutes later. She was the passenger whose review had bought me Rivergate Tower. Tonight, she wore a dark coat and carried an unopened cream envelope stamped with a black gold, and Holden stepped onto the stage before she reached the first row. Music started. The live counter climbed. Curtis watched from the hotel mezzanine with Alyssa beside him. The ex who had left me at the curb gripped the railing when she saw me holding Holden's banner. Tatum stopped under the smear screen. "What is this?" she demanded. Holden dropped to one knee. "This is me fixing your afternoon," he announced. "You were trapped in a taxi with a violent fraud. I brought witnesses." The screen replayed my edited office clip. Tatum looked at me. "Did you agree to this?" "I agreed to hold a banner for 10 minutes. I checked my phone. 8 remain." Few people laughed. Holden did not. He opened a ring box and raised his voice for the live stream. "Tatum Vaughn, marry me. My family will fund a $500,000 campaign. I will restore your name and remove people like him from your life." He pointed at me without leaving one knee. Curtis lifted his glass from the mezzanine. The screen behind him switched to the campaign line Megan had pitched at 4:42. Megan went quiet in my earpiece. Curtis had placed her line under Holden's proposal and Seth's smear. The first client heard it too. Their representative cut into Megan's call. "That is the line you pitched us." Megan answered, "Yes." Holden kept performing. "You belong beside someone who can protect your future," he told Tatum. "Say yes and I will handle the driver, the gossip, and your family." Tatum stared at the ring. Then she looked at the second banner near my shoes. "You wanted him to confess to a lie?" she asked. Holden's smile held. "I wanted him to understand his place." Tatum stepped onto the stage and Holden extended the ring. Tatum's unopened envelope slipped halfway from her bag. The black gold M caught the rooftop lights. Holden noticed and smiled. "Your family already approved the next match. Say yes tonight and I can make that envelope disappear." Tatum's voice went cold. "My family does not approve my choices. They approve the money around them." Holden lifted the ring higher. "I am giving you an exit. Take it before they choose someone worse." He had turned a proposal into a purchase order. The crowd heard it, and several phones moved closer. Tatum walked past the ring. The crowd turned with her as she crossed toward me. "Tatum," Holden warned, "do not make a public mistake." She stopped close enough to take the banner pole from my hand. Then Tatum dropped it, caught my jacket, and kissed me beneath the smear screen. The live counter jumped. Holden remained on one knee with the ring held toward empty air. Alyssa's glass slipped against the mezzanine rail. She caught it before it fell, but everyone near her saw the reach. Tatum ended the kiss and faced Holden. "There is your public answer," Alyssa called down from the mezzanine. "Derek, do not let her use you to make a point." Tatum looked up. "You left him for a dinner reservation." Alyssa gripped the railing. "You met him today. And I still managed to stay when the jacket was visible." The crowd turned toward Alyssa. She stepped back from the rail and stopped calling my name. Holden stood too fast. "You kissed a taxi driver to embarrass me." Tatum wiped lipstick from my collar with her thumb. "You used my complaint to embarrass him." The client on Megan's phone spoke again. "Unfreeze Curbside's deposit," the representative ordered. "We know who wrote the line." Megan's team cheered through the earpiece. The first account stayed. Curtis heard the client through the rooftop speakers. His glass stopped near his mouth. He tried to leave the mezzanine without looking rushed. The locked owner door made him turn around and take the public stairs. "Expensive exit. Excellent posture." Holden pointed toward the black hypercar below. "Tatum, look at the car. I bought it for you." She looked once. "You should ask for a refund." Holden laughed and waved the crowd toward the entrance. "Come watch. I will prove which man belongs in her world." We followed because arrogant people deserve a full audience. At the valet lane, Holden raised a key fob. The photographers moved around him. Seth's screen switched to a live close-up. Holden pressed the button. Nothing happened. He pressed again. The hypercar stayed dark. A photographer lowered his camera. Holden's own driver stared at the ground. "The signal is blocked," Holden explained. "These cars use secure access." He opened an app and tapped the unlock control. The doors remained shut. Tatum folded her arms. "Very secure." Holden's ears turned red. He pointed at his driver. "Tell them the car is mine." The driver looked at Holden, then at the live cameras. "I drove you here in the blue sedan, sir." That confidence lasted 3 seconds. Holden grabbed the driver's sleeve. "You watched the dealer deliver this." The driver pulled free. "I watched staff move it before the event. Nobody gave you a key." The crowd shifted away from Holden, so he turned on me. "You arranged this. You filed the review." Holden frowned. I removed the key fob from my jacket. The hypercar's lights flashed and both doors lifted. My full name filled the windshield owner display. The fare system confirmed ownership while every camera turned toward Holden's face. He checked his dead key fob twice. Nobody aimed at the car anymore. Alyssa reached the entrance behind Curtis. She saw the taxi jacket on my shoulders, then stopped walking when Tatum stood beside the open driver's door. Holden looked toward Curtis. "You told me the car would be placed under my event access." Curtis reached for him. Holden knocked his hand away. "The $500,000 commitment is cancelled," Holden announced into the live microphone. "Dempsey Creative does not touch my name again." The proposal producer removed Curtis's logo from the screen while he was still standing beneath it. Megan's client heard that too. The frozen deposit changed to active on her phone. Holden looked at Curtis instead of me. Curtis spread his hands. The delivery team made an error. Holden's driver shook his head. "Mr. Dempsey never booked a delivery. He only booked the photographers." Curtis went pale. Holden turned toward the giant screen. The proposal graphics carried Dempsey Creative's mark, Seth's smear, and Holden's family name. "You used my name to sell this attack?" Holden demanded. Curtis tried the usual soft voice. "We created a narrative that protected you. It put me on one knee beside someone else's car." Holden ripped the proposal banner from its frame. The fabric tore straight through Curtis's stolen campaign line. He threw the ring box at Curtis's shoes. "I still hate him," Holden snapped, pointing at me. "I hate being used more." "Healthy order," I told him. Holden marched over and shoved his phone against my chest. A contact number filled the screen. "This number paid Seth for the smear," he said. "They promised my family an engagement connection if Tatum said yes." Tatum's expression hardened. "Who are they?" Holden shook his head. "They never gave me a name, just that mark." He kept the phone against my chest. "Use the number and you owe me if this reaches my family. You volunteered me as a violent fraud 10 minutes ago. And you kissed my date, took my stage, and unlocked my car." I tapped the owner display. "Your car?" Holden looked toward the owner display and corrected himself through clenched teeth. "The car I was standing beside? Tiny, expensive Progress?" He pointed at the black gold M on her unopened envelope. Tatum finally looked down at it that night. Holden kicked the broken banner aside. "We are not friends, Derek. I would have charged more." He glared at the $300 in my pocket. "Keep it." "I plan to." Holden stormed toward his blue sedan. His driver stayed beside the curb. Holden stopped. "Are you coming?" The driver handed him the sedan key. "You can drive yourself, sir." Holden stared at the sedan key. His driver walked toward the staff entrance. Tatum could have entered the hypercar, but she walked past it. "Your 5-minute rich person tour is downstairs," I told her. "I already saw the useful part," Tatum replied. The key worked. Alyssa watched from the hotel entrance as Tatum left the hypercar behind and followed me toward the lower garage. My original silver taxi waited below. Tatum opened the front passenger door and placed the unopened envelope on the dashboard. The valet offered to bring the hypercar around. Tatum shook her head and fastened the taxi seatbelt instead. I reached for the ignition, but the garage lights flickered. 3 men stood beside my taxi. Each wore a black gold wristband. Each wristband carried the same black gold M stamped on Tatum's unopened engagement invitation. The proposal had ended. The next argument had already reached my taxi. A black gold handler reached through Tatum's open window and took her phone. He held a fresh GoCab pickup code beside it. "Keep the meter running," he ordered. "Ms. Vaughn changes cars here." A black SUV blocked the exit ramp. 2 more vehicles rolled behind my silver taxi. The garage attendant hit the closing control from his booth. A red clock appeared above the ramp. EXID, gate, 1 minute 30 seconds. Tatum pulled against the man's grip. "Get me my phone." He opened her passenger door and reached for her seatbelt. "Your father sent us," he told her. "The man your family picked is waiting." I stepped between his hand and the buckle. "She is staying in this car." The handler reached inside his coat and dropped a thick cash envelope on my hood. $20,000, he offered. "End the ride, leave the keys, and forget the passenger." Tatum stared at the envelope. "My father paid you to collect me?" The handler tightened his grip. "Your father arranged a safe transfer." The handler tried to turn her wrist toward the SUV. Tatum pulled back. "Safe transfers usually skip the grabbing." I picked up the envelope. The handler smiled again. "Good driver." I placed the envelope beneath my windshield wiper. "That covers the mirror if your people touch it." His smile died on schedule. Tatum looked at me. "You kept the money." Kept my eyes on the handler. He offered it badly. The handler slapped the hood. "You are the driver. Drive." I stepped closer. "I am driving her away from you." His smile disappeared. Tatum's unopened invitation still sat on my dashboard. The black gold M matched every wristband around us. I figured they had arrived before the proposal finished because they expected Holden to fail. The handler lifted his own phone. He had ordered the new ride so he could rate it. 1 star, he announced. "Unsafe driver, threatened passenger, refused a family transfer." He pressed submit while his other hand still held Tatum's phone. Bold strategy. Terrible witness placement. My screen flashed. Q qualified review. COER Civ passenger. Transfer refused. The baton man behind him swung a collapsible baton at my head. I caught it halfway down, and his eyes widened before mine did. My hand turned. His wrist followed. The baton struck concrete and bounced beneath the taxi. The second system line appeared. Combat Instinct. The skill arrived through my hands before the name finished glowing. The baton man reached again. I stepped inside the swing, drove my shoulder into his chest, and put him against the hood of his own SUV. The second crewman came from my blind side. Combat Instinct warned me late enough to hurt. His forearm clipped my shoulder and drove me into the taxi mirror. The glass cracked. The second crewman grinned. Still feeling expensive? I rolled the shoulder once. It moved. Your boss already paid for the mirror. I caught his next wrist, pulled him past the broken glass and pinned his arm against the roof. He stopped grinning as the handler lunged for Tatum. She kicked the passenger door open into his thigh. Then she ran toward the red fire release box beside the gate. The clock showed 74 seconds. The baton man moved to cut her off. I caught his jacket, turned him past me, and sent him into the side of the SUV. He stayed upright. His confidence did not. The second crewman snatched a short metal bar from the SUV. Behind him, the handler ordered the SUV driver to reverse into my taxi. The engine roared. Tatum reached back through the open passenger door and hit my hazard lights and horn together. The garage filled with noise. A couple leaving the elevator stopped and lifted their phones. The handler shouted at them to walk away. They stayed. Good. The handler had ordered them away. Tatum had just given him 2 more cameras. The second crewman's phone chimed before he swung, and he glanced at the screen. Balance still pending, the second crewman muttered. The handler snapped. You get paid when she gets delivered. I pointed at the message in his hand. You are risking your teeth for a man who skipped the deposit. The second crewman looked from his phone to the handler. That is the second delay tonight, he warned. The handler called someone and shoved the speaker toward him. We need the balance now, the second crewman told Beeline. A cold male voice answered. Finish the transfer first. The second crewman looked at the baton beneath my taxi. You promised half before contact, the handler snapped. You have half. The second crewman held up the payment screen. You sent 1/3. The handler cut the call before the arithmetic got uglier. Move, he barked. The buyer pays after. The second crewman lowered the bar 2 inches. That was enough. I pulled the handler from Tatum's path and shoved him toward the second crewman. That crewman stepped aside, leaving the handler to stumble alone. His metal bar stayed lowered while the handler fought for balance. Tatum reached the firebox. The clear cover refused to open. She drove the heel of her shoe through it, grabbed the red handle, and pulled. An alarm started screaming. The closing gate stopped with 49 seconds on the clock. Then it began lifting. Tatum ran back toward us as the route opened. The handler saw it and panicked. Block the ramp! The rear SUV reversed toward the opening. A blue sedan came down the opposite lane and struck its bumper at walking speed. Holden Gable climbed out before either vehicle settled. He was the humiliated suitor who had lost the proposal, the hypercar, and his driver upstairs. He had apparently come downstairs determined to lose his bumper too. Holden stared at the fresh scrape across his sedan. You hit my car. The SUV driver pointed at me. This has nothing to do with you. Holden shoved his sedan into park across the lane. It touched my paint. Now it is the only thing in my life that does. He left the sedan sideways and pocketed the key. The last escape car was blocked. I looked at him. Useful, Holden snapped. Do not enjoy it. You owe me a bumper and one favor. The alliance remained disgusting. Good. I trusted it more that way. The handler charged me with both hands. I stepped aside, caught his arm, and guided him into the taxi's rear door. He folded over the handle. His phone skittered across the concrete. The baton man started toward me again. The second crewman blocked him with one forearm. We were hired for a pickup, the second crewman warned. This turned into a fight because he lied. The handler lifted his head. I can blacklist both of you. The second crewman showed him the pending transfer. Pay me first, threaten me second. The baton man lowered his fists. The handler had spent all his authority before the invoice cleared. Tatum reached us and ripped the black gold wristband from the handler's wrist. The man grabbed for it. She drove her elbow into his hand and kept the band. Tatum held it beside the invitation on my dashboard. Cullen Marr, she told me. The fiancé my family picked without asking me. His phone rang on the concrete, and Tatum picked it up. Only an incoming call showed on screen, but the handler's expression answered first. Do not, he warned. Tatum accepted and put the call on speaker. A man's voice cut through the garage alarm. Put her in the SUV, Cullen ordered. Tatum held the torn wristband over the phone. Cullen, your men failed. Silence lasted half a second. Then Cullen's voice hardened. Your father approved the pickup. Tatum squeezed the band. My father does not approve my body. Cullen snapped. You embarrassed me at Crownline. Tatum glanced at the invitation. You proposed through another man's stolen campaign. Cullen ignored that. Naturally. Get in the car. We will discuss your behavior privately. Tatum looked at the handler still bent over my door. Your private discussion brought 3 vehicles and a baton. Cullen lowered his voice. You are making this driver expensive. I leaned toward the phone. She already rated me 1 star. You are late. The second crewman laughed once before he could stop himself. Cullen heard it. Who was that? The second crewman dropped the metal bar. Someone waiting on his money. The baton man looked at his own payment screen. Then he lowered his hands too. The handler turned on them. You work for Cullen. Cullen works through invoices, the second crewman answered. His are overdue. Both crewmen walked away from the handler. One kicked the baton farther beneath my taxi before leaving. The baton man took the handler's SUV key from the ignition and tossed it onto the hood. Find your own driver. The handler watched both crewmen walk away. Their weapons stayed on the floor. He was cooked. The alarm just made it louder. Tatum faced the phone again. I will not marry you, Cullen. I will not be collected. Send another car and I will leave it in worse shape. Cullen laughed once. You kissed a taxi driver in public and think that counts as a decision? Tatum looked at me, then raised the black gold band. It counted enough for you to send 3 cars. Cullen answered through clenched control. This is bigger than what you want. Tatum ended the call with 4 words. That is the problem. The handler ordered the crewman back to work. Neither man looked at him. The gate reached full height. I pulled the cash envelope from beneath the windshield wiper and tossed it to the second crewman. He caught it against his chest. Split it with the man who stopped swinging, I told him. The handler gets the mirror. Tatum stared at me. You just gave away $20,000. I nodded toward the crewman. I removed 2 people from Cullen's payroll. The second crewman pocketed the envelope without counting it and moved farther away. His partner joined him, leaving the handler alone beside the SUV. Over the garage speaker, the attendant warned, 30 seconds before the system resets. The handler made one last grab for Tatum's arm. She slapped his hand away and pushed his phone into his chest. Tell Cullen the ride was cancelled. Then she pulled her own phone from his coat pocket. I opened the passenger door for Tatum. She placed the torn wristband beside the invitation and climbed in. Holden kept his sedan across the attacker's lane. Remember the favor, he called. I remember the bumper, I called back. Holden pointed at the scrape. The favor costs more. I pointed at the abandoned handler. Then invoice Cullen, he enjoys unpaid bills. Holden looked at the abandoned handler and almost smiled. Almost. I started the taxi. Tatum watched my hands on the wheel. You caught that baton before he committed his shoulder. I checked the mirror. He committed his face first. Tatum kept watching my hands. That was not an answer. It got us through the gate, I told her. Her eyes stayed on my hands. I tightened them on the wheel and drove. We rolled toward the ramp when Tatum's recovered phone rang. She checked the name and nearly declined. Then, she put the call on speaker. Philip Vaughn was Tatum's father. He asked about financing before he asked whether she was hurt. Philip snapped. You just humiliated Cullen in front of hired men. Do you understand what his family is financing? Tatum looked at the torn wristband. Did you send them? Philip answered without hesitation. I sent people to bring you home. Tatum gripped the torn wristband. They grabbed my phone. You forced them to improvise, Philip replied. Tatum's face went still. Philip kept talking because terrible fathers also love overtime. The Mar deal carries several Lakeview Estates investments. Keep provoking Cullen and innocent people lose funding. Tatum cut in. You traded my answer for a financing promise? Philip stayed cold. I protected this family. Tatum ended the call. She placed the phone face down beside the invitation and kept both hands flat on her knees. My father called that protection. I kept us moving. He also called 3 men a ride. That earned the smallest laugh of the night. Then my GoCap inbox flashed with a new message. The sender used Holden's smear contact. The message contained a photo of my silver taxi inside the garage. A red timer had been painted across the image. 3 minutes. Under it, Cullen had written one line. Tomorrow, I find out how long your livelihood survives. Cullen had promised my taxi would survive 3 minutes. The next ride attacked it with 6 pairs of shoes. A matching blazer recruitment team surrounded my silver taxi outside Crownline. Their booking listed Lakeview Estates and 4 passengers. 6 people opened doors while Tatum stayed in the front seat. The team leader pointed at her. She can get out. We booked the vehicle. Tatum tightened her seatbelt. You booked 4 seats. Your group brought a math problem. 3 recruiters squeezed into the back. A fourth sat across 2 laps. The last 2 tried the trunk before I locked it. Every seatbelt warning started chiming. The team leader shoved a folded 100 through the gap beside my seat. Ignore the alarms, we need 1 arrival shot. I returned the bill. Buy a second car. The team leader snatched it back. That ruins the image. I pointed at the bodies behind me. The image already smells crowded. One recruiter aimed her camera at Tatum. Is she your assistant? Tatum looked into the lens. I am the woman occupying the seat you keep failing to understand. The recruiter moved the camera away first, so everyone removed their shoes. The smell reached the dashboard before their sales pitch did. One recruiter planted both feet on my center armrest. We are filming a success retreat, the team leader explained. The luxury look matters. I checked my dashboard. You hired a taxi. The team leader lifted her chin. Confidence creates luxury. I pointed at the armrest. Your socks created something else. I pulled to the curb and ended the ride. The team leader waved a phone near my face. Drive us together or all 6 accounts rate you 1 star. One of her recruiters opened 6 review windows and fanned them across the back seat like cards. 6 businesses, the leader warned. 6 complaints. I tapped the seat count. The legal limit is 4 passengers. The team leader raised her phone. Our audience does not care about limits. My license does, I told her. I opened every door, shoes on, people out. The recruiter stayed seated and began filming me. The team leader announced to her livestream, this driver is abandoning 6 business owners because he cannot recognize success. Tatum looked into the camera. He recognized the passenger limit. Your team lost to a number below 7. The comments moved faster after that. The recruiters finally climbed out. They left dirt, 2 open drink cups, and 1 sock that nobody claimed. The team leader pressed 1 star and flicked the screen toward me. Enjoy unemployment. My screen flashed before she reached the rented shuttle behind us. QUAIIIIIIIIL legal passenger limit enforced. Lakeview Estates, Ville, full ownership. Original silver. Taxi, armored upgrade. Value, $3,800,000. The locks clicked as the rear suspension settled under us. My cracked mirrors straightened until the fracture vanished from the glass. The taxi stayed silver, plain, and easy to insult. Its doors now closed with much more weight. Tatum tapped the window. That changed. I watched the locks. It got harder to smash. Tatum's eyes moved to Cullen's 3-minute message. Convenient. The system route pointed to the exact Lakeview address the recruiters had booked. I followed it, and their rented shuttle followed me. Humiliation had apparently included transportation. The Lakeview Estates gate opened for my taxi. The recruiter's shuttle had to stop at the visitor lane. They climbed out, ran through the pedestrian entrance, and reached the villa driveway seconds after I did. A black case waited on the front steps. The seal leaked a rich coffee smell across the steps. The team leader saw the villa, the coffee case, and my upgraded taxi. Her entire personality recovered, and she turned her livestream back on. Welcome to our private team property, she announced. Tonight we reveal the company vehicle. 2 recruiters stretched their banner across my hood. Another leaned against the driver's door and called me their chauffeur. Their comments asked for a house tour. The team leader promised 1 at 10,000 likes. She tried my front door. It stayed locked. Driver, she called, open the property. I held up my keys. Owners usually have these. She smiled at her audience. Our staff carries them. The lie was improving. I wanted the full version. Tatum started forward. I touched her elbow. Let them post it. Tatum kept her voice low. They are using your house. I held her back. They are writing the correction for me. The team leader handed me her phone. Driver, take the photo. I framed all 6 spaces, the banner, the villa, and the taxi's owner display. Then I took the picture. She posted it with the caption, our first Lakeview asset. The owner display woke beneath their banner. Direk Halstead. The taxi doors locked with all 6 recruiters outside. The team leader checked my name once, recovered, and shoved a payment request at me. You appeared in our success retreat. We charge for placement. I rejected it and sent my own request. Your shoes were real, $300 for cleaning. One recruiter paid before her leader could invent another fee. Petty income was still income. That was when a woman from the neighboring villa crossed the lawn while finishing a finance call. Yvette March owned the house next door. She ignored the banner and stopped beside the black coffee case. Where did you get that? Yvette asked. It came with the house, I told her. Yvette crouched over the allocation card. My family has tried to buy one case for 2 years. The team leader tried one last claim. It belongs to our company retreat. Yvette looked from the coffee to my name on the taxi. Your company owns neither. The team leader's live stream caught every word as Yvette lifted the coffee case and faced Tatum. She broke the seal just enough to smell the beans, then looked at me again. People wait years for this allocation. You received it with a house and kept driving fares? I took the case from her. The fares keep buying strange things. Tatum's head turned toward me. I gave her nothing else. Who is he? Yvette asked her. Tatum glanced at my taxi jacket. A driver. Yvette smiled. That answer stopped explaining him several properties ago. Yvette tapped the front passenger door. At Lakeview, that is the owner's seat. It tells everyone who gets first claim on the driver. Tatum opened the door, sat down, and fastened her belt. Then the seat is occupied. Yvette's smile sharpened, and the fake recruiters found their phones fascinating. Then 3 work trucks stopped across the driveway. Men climbed out carrying sledgehammers, pry bars, and 1 livestream rig. Each truck carried the black gold M. The crew leader raised his phone. Cullen's face filled the screen from somewhere else. He ordered the fake recruiters away from the driveway. The team leader pointed at her banner. We are filming here. The crew leader looked at the owner display, then at her. Then film from farther away. She moved behind Yvette without another speech. A red timer appeared over my taxi. 3 minutes. Cullen spoke through the livestream. You wanted the driver's answer, Tatum. Watch his livelihood disappear. The crew leader pointed at the silver taxi. 5,000 each if it is totaled before 0. The fake recruiters backed away from the car they had claimed 30 seconds earlier. Their livestream stayed active. Excellent survival instincts. Better marketing. The first hammer came down on the driver's window. It bounced. The crewman lost the hammer. The glass kept the insult. I leaned against the hood. Keep swinging. Your client sounds confident. The second man hit the rear door with a pry bar. The door barely moved. A third man hooked a chain around the rear wheel and attached it to his truck. On the crew leader's signal, the truck pulled hard. The chain dragged sparks across the driveway, but my taxi stayed inside the painted lines. He waved the driver off before the chain reached Yvette's landscaping. The timer showed 2 minutes, 38 seconds. Now the crew leader frowned at Cullen's feed. You said this was a cheap sedan. It is a taxi, Cullen answered. The owner display changed. AR moored vehicle value, $3,800,000. Every tool stopped. One crewman looked at the tiny mark he had made on the door. How much liability did you cover? The crewman asked. Cullen's face tightened. Finish the job. The crew leader held out his phone. Send the full payment first. Cullen snapped. You get paid at 0. The crew leader turned the camera toward the tiny dent. You told us the car cost $6,000. Cullen raised his voice. Do what I hired you to do. The crew leader held up his payment screen. I need another $50,000. Cullen offered. I will pay 20 after. The crew leader laughed into the live stream. You are negotiating with my lawsuit. Cullen promised 30. Then 40. Every new offer proved the first one had been a lie. The crew leader turned his live stream camera toward the owner display. You hired us to total $3.8 million for $15,000. The comments exploded. The fake recruiters watched their own audience leave their channel for the vandalism feed. One tried to move her banner back into frame. The crew leader kicked it off the hood. Stop advertising over my payment dispute. One man dropped his sledgehammer. Another placed his pry bar beside it. The third looked directly into Cullen's camera. Pay the liability or smash it yourself. The timer kept falling. Nobody swung. The crew started loading its tools. Curbside Media's temporary logo appeared in the corner of the feed. Megan had grabbed the livestream while my taxi jacket stayed centered. Then she called. Our client wants the raw clip, Megan told me. They are calling it the toughest 3-minute ad they never paid for. I looked at Cullen's frozen feed. Cullen paid. Megan laughed once. Even better. The crew leader heard Megan and checked his own feed. Curbside had replaced cheap taxi destroyed with wrong car, wrong client. The client logo appeared beneath it before the timer reached 0. Yvette lifted her phone. Her finance call had never ended. Yvette instructed the caller, pull my Lakeview commitment from the Mar deal. Cullen heard her through the crew's speaker. Yvette March? Yvette faced the camera. You lied to workers about the value of one car. I will not trust you with neighborhood money. Cullen cut in. You signed a commitment. Yvette closed her phone. I committed to competent people. The crew leader folded the tripod and pointed it toward Cullen's frozen face one last time. Send our deposit. Then his men loaded their untouched tools back into the trucks. The timer hit 0 beside an intact taxi. Tatum lowered her window from the front passenger seat. 3 minutes, Tatum told Cullen. Your money survived less time than the paint. Yvette looked at the occupied seat and laughed. The 6 recruiters tried to leave quietly. The team leader recovered one final time. We could partner, your car, our audience. I looked at the livestream numbers now sitting on Curbside's caption. Your audience already changed cars. I held up the paid cleaning receipt. Caption first. The recruiter who had paid changed the post while everyone watched. She read the correction aloud. 6 people trespassed beside someone else's taxi. I let them keep the photo, and Cullen's feed vanished. A new post replaced it before the trucks cleared the gate. CITY, driver, challenge. 3 stations, Ninity Seekins, 1 GoCab account. No second attempt. The last line named Curbside's launch deposit as the second thing I would lose. An accept button waited beneath it. Tatum read the rules. He controls the stage. Yvette closed the coffee case. He controlled the driveway too. I pressed accept. Then I typed one condition beneath Cullen's post. Bring every creator contract attached to the event. I win, they walk. Cullen answered with one word. Done. He had failed to break the taxi, so he built a stage where he could blame the driver. By noon, Cullen had turned his failed vandalism job into the city driver challenge. My silver taxi sat on the closed course beside a purpose-built race car. It existed to make the taxi look stupid. Freya Reese stood on the start platform with a Vibecast microphone. She was the host Cullen had hired to call me a fraud in front of a live audience. Freya read the sponsor card without smiling. Derek Halstead claims a taxi can beat a professional driver. I looked at Cullen. I claimed your sponsor cannot read a vehicle display. The crowd laughed. Cullen Marr stood behind Freya in a black sponsor jacket. Tatum's imposed fiancé had already wasted 3 cars, a garage crew, and a demolition team trying to move her. Now he pointed at the giant rule board. 3 stations, Cullen announced. 90 seconds. 1 attempt. A second line carried the cost. My GoCab account and Curbside Media's launch deposit sat on my side. The creator release letters and the champion's kneeling apology sat on Cullen's. Tatum stood near my taxi with the torn black gold wristband in her pocket. Yvette watched from beside the coffee case she had brought from Lakeview. Cullen pointed at the sponsor platform. Tatum, your seat is beside me. Tatum opened my front passenger door and placed the torn wristband on the dashboard instead. My seat survived your last crew. Yvette looked at the sponsor platform. Mine is beside the money I withdrew. Cullen's jaw tightened. He had lost the woman, the financing, and the driveway before the clock even started. Freya's producer leaned close to her microphone. Read the fraud line exactly. Miss 1 sponsor cue and the penalties hit your whole channel. Freya kept her eyes on the board. Her badge carried Vibecast's exclusive contract stripe. The creators behind her wore the same stripe and the same trapped expression. That was why I had added their release to the wager. Cullen's champion leaned against the race car and tapped my hood. You brought an armored brick to a driver test. I looked at his car. You brought a costume to a parking lot. The champion pushed off the hood and pointed at the barriers. Touch 1 barrier and 10 seconds get added. Miss 1 station and you lose. 1 attempt, Cullen repeated. No excuses. Megan's message appeared on my phone. Take the bet. Bring me the creators. I signed the public board and Cullen signed beneath me. Then Cullen chopped one hand toward the course crew. Move the barriers. Workers dragged both walls inward around the reverse station. The final stopping box lost several feet. Freya lowered the microphone. Those were not the posted dimensions. Cullen smiled toward the cameras. The board promised 3 stations. It never promised comfortable ones. The champion laughed again. A mechanic near my taxi slapped the roof. Huh, that thing will scrape before station 2. Use the other hand, I told him. Cullen already failed with tools. The mechanic removed his palm. A Vibecast producer approached my dashboard and reached for the safety recorder cable. Event rules, he explained. Outside feed only. The champion leaned through my window. The recorder stays off, the armor setting stays locked, and you follow our spotter. I kept one hand on the recorder. Your spotter moved the course after I signed. The champion smiled. Then listen carefully. I caught the producer's wrist before he unplugged it. My safety system stays on. Cullen lifted his phone. The event booking still sat under his GoCab account. Then you refused inspection. He filed 1 star before Freya could object. Qualified review, VE Heikel safety. Control retained. The system gave no explanation, but the course stopped looking difficult. Every gap had a line. Every line had an exit. Freya raised the microphone again. 90 seconds starts when the front tire crosses white. The champion leaned near my open window. Try not to kill the engine. I started the taxi, and the armored doors shut around me. The timer hit 0 as I crossed the white line. 1 minute, 30 seconds. Station 1 squeezed the taxi through 6 offset gates. The champion spotter waved me toward the wrong opening, so I ignored him and cleared the last barrier without touching paint. The mechanic stopped laughing. One creator behind Freya pulled his sponsor cap over a smile. 1 minute, 4 seconds. At Station 2, Cullen ordered the inside barrier moved again. The mechanic grabbed one end, then looked at the signed rule board and let go. I moved it once. Cheat without me. Freya kept her microphone live. Cullen is narrowing Station 2 after the clock started. Creator behind her tore off his sponsor tag and dropped it at the mechanic's feet. Cullen snapped, read the sponsor line. Freya pointed at the new gap. The sponsor is cheating on camera. I reversed through the narrowed turn in one clean rotation. The champion raised one counting finger and never found a second. 32 seconds. The final station was a short run into a box Cullen had already shrunk. I accelerated once, braked once, and stopped with the front plate inside red. The timer froze. 12 seconds remaining. One of Cullen's course workers checked every barrier. None had moved. The producer reached for Freya's audio control. Freya stepped away from him and kept the microphone live. Freya turned the microphone toward Cullen. Derek Halstead cleared all 3 stations in 78 seconds. The crowd shifted toward my taxi. The mechanic who had mocked the roof inspected the untouched barriers. He kept his hands to himself this time. Cullen stared at the rule board. His champion pushed past him. "That course tests parking," the champion snapped. "Race me." The crowd woke up again. The champion pointed at the race car. 2 laps, same closed course, first across wins. I stepped out of the taxi. "You already put kneeling on the board." The champion stepped closer. "I will kneel when you beat me at driving." I nodded toward Freya. "Good, say it into her microphone." Freya held it out. The champion faced the live audience. "If that taxi beats me, I kneel in front of it." Cullen grabbed his shoulder. "You do not need to add anything." The champion shook him off. He got lucky in a box. A graceful exit still existed. He treated it as a personal insult. Freya faced me. "Same account and deposits stay at risk." I pointed at the release letters. "The creator releases stay too." Cullen's jaw flexed. "Fine." The release letters remained on the table while I returned to the taxi. A blue sedan rolled into the spectator lane before the second start. Holden climbed out with 2 phones and the expression of a man attending someone else's funeral for entertainment. He was the humiliated suitor, now helping out of spite. "You still owe me a favor," Holden reminded me. I pointed at both phones. "Hold a camera." Holden raised both phones. "That is not the favor." "Then call it interest," I told him. Holden started a second live stream anyway. Cullen saw him. "Stay out of this." Holden aimed the camera at the race car. "I paid $300 to watch Derek ruin one event. I am maximizing the investment." Freya counted down. The race car launched first and took the straight by several lengths. The taxi lost speed. Phones dipped across the front row after 10 seconds. I gave them patience instead. The first turn tightened around stacked barriers. The champion braked late and cut across my lane. I held the outside line and stayed beside him. His mirror came within inches of mine before he jumped ahead. On the second straight, he pulled ahead again. The crowd followed the race car with their phones, while Holden kept one camera fixed on the taxi. "Wait for the ugly corner," Holden told his viewers. Cullen designed it himself. Cullen started smiling. Tatum watched the final turn. Cullen had designed it himself. One hard left fed a narrow exit, with a lane marker set to punish the heavier car. He reached it first. Then he clipped the marker with his rear tire and knocked it into my lane. Freya's producer sliced one hand across his throat. "Cut the feed." Freya stepped in front of him and kept broadcasting. The videcast screen went black for half a second. Holden's backup feed replaced it. "Wrong phone," Holden told Cullen. The loose marker rolled toward my front tire while the champion accelerated without looking back. Then the fair system named what it had put into my hands. Perfect driver. I let the taxi's weight hold the outside line, missed the marker by inches, and carried speed through the turn. It slid wide and I passed at the exit. My silver taxi crossed the finish first. The race car followed half a length behind and clipped the foam finish marker. For 1 second, the course was quiet. Then the crowd began chanting for the taxi. Creators on Freya's side joined before the paid spectators did. The champion stopped beyond the line and stayed inside his car. I parked in front of the start platform. Freya walked to his window and offered the microphone. "You promised something." The champion climbed out and pointed at her. "You were supposed to cut when he left his lane." Freya pushed the microphone closer. "Repeat that clearly." His mouth kept digging. "You were told to cut the feed if the race looked wrong." Freya turned toward the live audience. "There." He explained the sponsor plan himself. The loss had already happened on the track. His complaint made it uglier. Cullen stepped between them. "The wager is over." "Yes," I told him. "That is why he kneels now." The champion looked at the crowd, the creator table, and Cullen. Nobody offered him another exit. He dropped to one knee in front of my taxi. The mechanic covered his mouth. Holden did not bother. "Beautiful posture," Holden called. Cullen reached for the release letters, but Freya got there first. She lifted the packet from the table and handed one letter to every creator wearing a videcast badge. The creators tore off their sponsor tags as they received them. Cullen grabbed Freya's microphone cable. "You work for Videcast." Freya pulled the cable from his hand. "I worked for people who ordered me to hide cheating." She removed her Videcast badge and dropped it on the sponsor card. "I quit." The creators moved behind her. One producer tried to stop them by naming contract penalties. Freya handed him her release letter. Cullen signed first. The producer looked toward Cullen. Cullen looked toward the kneeling champion. Nobody rescued either man. The creators crossed the painted sponsor line and stood behind Freya. Cullen told them to return. Nobody moved. I tore Curbside Media's deposit authorization from the board and held it out to Freya. Use it as signing money. Cullen stared at me. That is your company's launch cash. I pushed the authorization into Freya's packet. Megan told me to bring her creators. Freya looked at the group behind her. You are hiring all of us? I nodded at the creators. Curbside needs a talent lead. Freya folded the release packet. What does it pay? I tapped the packet. Enough that nobody buys your silence by the minute. Freya picked up the release packet. I start now. The mechanic approached me while the creators crossed toward Curbside's side of the course. You need someone who understands that taxi? I looked at the hand he had removed from my roof. You laughed at it 10 minutes ago. The mechanic raised both hands. I learned quickly. I gave him Megan's contact. Learn on probation. Yvette carried the coffee case toward me. I suppose the driver earned this. Tatum reached me first and kissed my cheek in front of Yvette. He already has a passenger. Yvette looked at the front seat, then at Tatum. So I noticed. The victory lasted 6 seconds. A sponsor screen above Cullen lit with an incoming call. Cullen's posture changed before the voice spoke. The screen identified Luther Marr, Cullen's father, and the head of Marr Capital. The event crew lowered their voices and looked at the sponsor screen. Luther looked past his son and found me. You embarrassed an heir over a taxi. I pointed at the kneeling champion. Your heir volunteered. Luther's expression stayed flat. GoCab has suspended your driver account. My phone buzzed. GoCab, ACCUU suspended. Freya's new creators checked their videcast pages. Sponsor warnings appeared across every screen. Luther continued. By midnight, videcast will make Curbside toxic, and Seth Dre will explain why. Cullen finally smiled again. I looked at the kneeling champion, the freed creators, and my suspended account. I had thought winning the race would embarrass one heir. By midnight, his father had turned every phone in the city into a weapon. My GoCab account was suspended before Cullen's champion stood up. The Vibecast producer still had one weapon left. His event booking remained open, so he climbed into my back seat and held up the rating screen. Pull into the red loading zone, the producer ordered. Park beneath Seth's stage and block those creators until they sign back. Freya was already leading them toward the exit. The red lane was their only clear path. I kept the taxi in the legal pickup space. That lane stays open, I told him. Your paperwork can walk. The producer leaned between the seats. Luther Marr suspended you. I can make the ban permanent. Then enjoy the same seat while you do it. He pressed 1 star. Qualified review. Emergency loading access S. Keep T clear. A black mask appeared on my screen. Metacost, $100 million in promotion credits. Vibecast, UZ. Only. Cash conversion, unavailable. The credits could move attention. They could not buy lunch. Then every sponsor screen around the challenge switched at once. Seth Dre appeared on the opposite platform in a borrowed white suit. He was the office parasite who had tried to grab my phone for Curtis. Luther had upgraded him from kneeling indoors to lying outdoors. A 12-minute timer opened above Seth's head. 12 minutes? Seth spread both arms toward a wall of paid creator badges. Curbside Media stole these creators through violence and fake money, Seth announced. Stay here, and I restore every Videcast contract they ruined. The producer opened his door into the creator's path. I rolled 6 feet to the marked unloading spot before he stepped out. You canceled my ride, he snapped. You're still rating it. Outside, 2 event workers rolled a sponsor barricade across the creator's path. Freya kicked the wheel lock loose and shoved the barricade back toward Seth's platform. The creators followed her through the opening while Freya took the producer's microphone. She had quit on air less than 10 minutes earlier. Now she stood as Curbside Media's talent lead, with every released creator behind her. Freya faced Seth's camera. You cannot restore contracts Cullen already released. Seth smiled at her. I can restore your status. He tapped his sponsor wall. Several large creators stepped beside him. Their viewers followed, and Freya's side of the plaza thinned. Seth watched the audience move and lowered his voice for the microphone. Win this for me, Freya, and I put your face back on the homepage. You can thank me privately after the stream. Freya's hand tightened around the microphone. Tatum stepped beside her. He buys women's jobs and calls the receipt gratitude. Seth looked Tatum over. You are the passenger who kissed a driver for attention. Tatum lifted the torn black gold wristband. Your sponsor sent men to collect me. Keep talking about attention. The live comments turned ugly around Seth. He bought another promotion block, pushing Freya into one corner of the central screen. The timer reached 10 minutes as I touched the first meter ghost credit. Freya returned to the center, and Seth's lowest sponsor tile vanished. A book reviewer hesitating at the painted line saw her own name fill the empty tile. She crossed to Freya before Seth understood what the screen had done. Freya handed her the first curbside sign-up card. Your reviews brought people back after my worst week. Put your name first. The creator signed against Freya's microphone stand and peeled off her old sponsor badge. A new supporter name appeared above the feed, Mettercoast. Seth laughed too loudly. A fake account bought one leftover. He doubled his spend and shoved a sponsor card at one of his larger creators. Call Freya a thief, Seth ordered. The creator looked at the book reviewer's name on the central screen, then lowered the card. You paid me to host, you did not buy my mouth. I spent the second block. Every phone in the plaza opened Freya's feed. Half the front row crossed to her platform, and another sponsor tile on Seth's wall went dark. Seth laughed at the tiny signature. 9 viewers and a borrowed microphone. Curbside is collecting leftovers. Freya turned the card toward the camera. She reviewed books for 9 people because nobody bought her audience. That makes 9 honest viewers more than you earned tonight. The book reviewer took the microphone. My name stays on my work. Megan heard the line through my earpiece. Put her on the opening screen. A blank tile appeared beside Curbside's client campaign at Rivergate Tower. The book reviewer's name filled it first, her phone lit with new followers while Seth was still calling her irrelevant. The front row lifted the book reviewer's sign-up card. Seth's paid creators stopped smiling. Seth's face tightened. He threw another purchase onto the battle and ordered his larger creators to close ranks. The man who had refused the insult stayed silent beside him. 2 others moved half a step away instead. Seth had bought loyalty by the minute. The minutes were getting expensive. A private account boosted Freya's feed from the spectator lane. The comment beneath it read, "Show the full race footage." Also, the cheek kiss proved nothing. Tatum read the comment aloud, then looked toward Holden's scratched blue sedan. Holden, Tatum called. Your anonymity lasted 4 words. Holden lowered one of his phones. I was correcting the record. You funded her feed. I funded Cullen's embarrassment, Holden snapped. The feed happened to contain it. He raised the phone again. Hostile ally, consistent service. Seth saw Holden's boost and attacked harder. Meter Ghost is one coward hiding behind a mask, Seth announced. Curbside has no office, no launch, and no money left. Derek spent its deposit buying deserters. My earpiece clicked. Megan Doyle, the operator I had put in charge of Curbside, spoke over hammering and moving chairs. Keep him talking, Megan told me. The client approved the screen. The live feed split. Rivergate Tower appeared on one side. Dempsey Creative's sealed glass office sat dark behind the security shutter. Across the hall, Curbside's workers pulled a white screen over the crooked paper sign. Megan stepped into view. Before the launch, Megan played one voice note from Ms. Doyle, her mother and the teacher who made me put my name on every page. If you use their work, Ms. Doyle told us, show their names. Megan hit the launch control. Our first client campaign filled Rivergate's lobby screens. Every worker's name ran beneath the campaign line Curtis had tried to steal. The client logo stayed beside Curbside Media. Then the sealed shutter across Dempsey Creative became a second screen. Curtis's old office displayed our launch while nobody inside could turn it off. Megan faced the camera. Curbside is live. Creator intake opens now. Sign-up cards began filling the wall behind her. Seth pointed at the screen. That building belongs to a fraud. Megan lifted the sweet key I had tossed her when Curbside opened. The doors disagree. She returned to the launch before Seth found a second lie. The timer reached 6 minutes. Seth's sponsor wall still looked larger. His audience had started facing the wrong direction. One creator near the center hesitated. Her sponsor badge flashed a debt warning, and Seth saw the fear immediately. He pointed at her. Cross that line and you owe every advance tonight. The creator stopped. Megan put the hesitant creator's face on one Rivergate screen beside a paid campaign. A blank name line waited under it. Freya held out her own release letter. Cullen signed us free in front of your cameras. The hesitant creator looked at Seth's wall, then at the open name tile waiting on Megan's screen. She crossed and signed it. Her sponsor badge landed at Seth's shoes. He called the released creators ungrateful. Then he named every punishment Videcast would place on anyone who followed her. Seth stepped to the edge of his platform. Cullen lost one race. Luther owns the platform. Tatum's phone rang. Philip Vaughn's name appeared. Her father had ordered the garage pickup and called it protection. Tatum answered on speaker without leaving Freya's side. Philip's voice came sharp. Step away from that feed. Mar financing is already under pressure. Tatum looked at Seth's sponsor wall. A man is buying a woman's job and demanding private gratitude. Your partners seem familiar. Philip lowered his voice. Leave now, or I move your engagement forward. Tatum held the black gold wristband toward the camera. Move it wherever you want, I am not attending. She ended the call. The audience heard her choose. Seth heard it too, and panic made him generous. He bought the largest placement on the screen. For 3 seconds, his face covered the entire plaza display. He pointed into the camera. Meter Ghost does not exist. It is a curbside trick using fake credits. That was the line I needed. I spent the next block. Seth's face shrank. Freya's feed took the full screen. The audience counter rolled so fast the digits blurred, but the real result stood in front of us. People left Seth's platform in rows. 2 paid creators removed his sponsor badges and crossed first. 3 more followed. Each step emptied a square on his sponsor wall. Seth turned and grabbed Freya's wrist. "You owe me for every dollar I put behind your face," he hissed. Freya slapped him before I moved. The microphone caught the sound as Seth lifted his hand. I caught his forearm and held it between us. "She answered you," I told him. "Lose the hand." Freya pulled free herself and kept the microphone. Seth looked at my grip, then at the live camera. "You are protecting an imaginary donor," he snapped. I released him and opened the supporter panel. The black mass vanished. Meter Coast, verified, Derek Halstead. Seth stared from my name to my taxi. I touched the final promotion command. Every curbside creator appeared on the main feed beside Freya. Megan's Rivergate sign-up wall filled behind them. The book reviewer's name stayed first. Seth's own paid creators began crossing. One removed his badge and stuck it to Seth's empty sponsor wall. The others copied him. Luther's voice cut through the producer's earpiece. "Kill the plaza screen." The producer slapped the power control, and the giant display went black. Seth smiled for half a second, then every spectator raised a phone. Meter Ghost had already placed Freya's feed on each screen. Holden's backup stream filled the few that missed it. Hundreds of small screens faced Seth from the dark plaza. He had asked Videcast to hide the audience. The audience held itself up. Within seconds, the sponsor wall carried only abandoned badges and Seth's face. He ordered the creators back, but nobody moved for him. Freya lifted the microphone. "Curbside signs people, Seth collects them." The last large creator left his platform. Seth grabbed the producer by the sleeve. "Put my face back on the screen." The producer looked at the abandoned badges, then at Luther's dead display. He removed Seth's hand from his sleeve. "My event booking ended," the producer muttered. He had discovered boundaries. Late, but adorable. Freya pointed the released creators toward 3 camera stations. "Writers on the left, live sellers on the right. Anyone Seth threatened gets the center feed." Freya assigned every camera before I opened my mouth. Megan's voice came through the split screen. The client expanded the launch. 3 more creator teams signed. Behind her, curbside workers replaced the temporary paper sign with a lit screen. The book reviewer's name appeared under the client campaign before mine did. Megan turned from the camera and started assigning the 3 new teams. Seth had bought me an audience. Luther Marr appeared on the remaining sponsor screen. He looked at the empty platform, then at his son's former creators standing behind Freya. "Attention burns quickly," Luther warned. I nodded towards Seth's abandoned wall. His burned first. Luther's gaze moved to my taxi. "Your account stays suspended." My phone flashed again. "GoCab, Akiant, suspension locked." Then the Lakeview Estates gate camera opened on Tatum's phone. 3 black gold trucks rolled toward my villa. The picture shook once, then it went black. Megan's Rivergate feed died 1 second later. Lakeview Estates and Curbside Media lost their cameras at the same time. GoCab still had my account locked. The suspension killed public dispatches, but my window code still accepted direct fares. I was driving toward Rivergate Tower anyway when a father stepped into the street carrying a little girl. Her face was hot and her hands were limp around his neck. "The emergency room is 11 minutes away," the father begged. "Please, run the lights if you have to." I unlocked the rear door. The father scanned the window code and opened a direct fare before climbing in. "Buckle her in," I told him. "I stop at red lights. I get her there alive." The father climbed in and pulled the belt across both of them. Tatum turned from the front seat and held the girl's shaking hand. The father pointed through the windshield. "Faster." I heard the first request. Traffic stacked near the river. I took the open turns, held every legal gap, and kept the taxi flat through them. Perfect driver helped me read the road. It did not make other cars disappear. The father tried to unbuckle and lean forward. Tatum pushed the belt back across him. "Sit down, he is already moving." A delivery truck blocked one lane. I took the clear side street before its brake lights finished spreading. The girl opened her eyes once. "Silver car," she whispered. Tatum squeezed her hand. "Best one in the city." The father looked at the ordinary dashboard and almost argued. His daughter's breathing stopped him. The emergency doors opened as the dashboard clock hit 11 minutes. I carried the girl inside while Tatum kept the father moving behind me. A nurse took the child through the doors. The father caught both my hands. "You saved her," he told me. "I will tell everyone." A black gold sedan stopped near the curb while I answered Megan's first call. A man passed the father a sealed envelope and left without looking at the emergency doors. The father looked at the envelope, then at me. I had one ugly guess. I did not have the answer yet. He kept half his promise. My phone filled with calls from Megan and Yvette. Curbside's lower windows were broken. Black gold men had crossed the Lakeview gate. Then the father's public video appeared on my suspended GoCab page. He stood outside the emergency entrance with the camera close to his face. "This driver endangered my daughter," the father announced. "He drove recklessly and ignored every safety request." One star appeared beneath the video. Tatum stared at him. "You thanked him 30 seconds ago." The father's eyes moved toward a black gold envelope tucked beneath his arm. I stepped into his frame. "Who bought the second version?" I asked. He tightened his grip on the envelope. "Cullen promised to cover the hospital bill." There it was, paid gratitude with a receipt. Several minutes later, the emergency doors opened behind him. The girl sat in a wheelchair with a blanket around her shoulders. She heard her father's accusation and frowned. "Dad," the girl called. "He stopped at the red lights. You told him to run them." His phone dropped to his side. Live comments turned on him before he found another sentence. The girl pointed at my taxi. "He helped me. Her father tried one last save. She is feverish. She does not understand the route." Tatum took his phone and turned the camera toward the child. "Then ask her without feeding the answer." He could not do it. The girl lifted one small hand. "He told you no red lights. You said okay." Comments filled with the same question. Who paid the father? He looked down at the black gold envelope and deleted the video. The review stayed long enough. Q qualified review. Chide as safety. Boundary upheld. A second system panel began opening, but Megan called before I read it. Her voice came through broken glass and shouting. "Anchor point security guards are here. They are facing us." I closed the panel. "Keep everyone behind the desks," I told her. "I am coming through the front." Tatum climbed back into the taxi. "My family paid that father. Cullen paid him. My father keeps choosing Cullen." She fastened the belt hard enough to answer herself. We reached Rivergate while Freya was streaming from behind Curbside's bent sign. She kept the camera on the workers, not the broken monitors. Two creators held the glass door shut while Megan dragged a desk across it. Outside, 12 guards in dark Anchor Point uniforms stood shoulder to shoulder. Black gold sponsor clips hung from their jackets. The vandals stood behind them with crowbars and paint cans. They had sprayed over every worker name on Curbside's launch wall and painted Seth's face across the middle. One final name remained visible near the bottom. The book reviewer had covered it with her own body while the paint flew. Cullen stood beside the lead truck, smiling behind the line his guards created. He was the fiancé who had lost his men, his challenge, and Tatum's answer. Apparently he had come to collect a fourth. Cullen pointed when my taxi stopped. "Anchor point," Cullen ordered. "Remove the driver." The guard captain lifted one hand and his line tightened toward me. Megan shouted through the broken doorway. "They smashed the new sign first." One vandal near the entrance held the bent sign above a creator's head. He had protected her from the falling metal while his friends kept breaking things. Megan noticed too. Cullen smiled at me. "Your audience cannot stop a security line." I opened the system panel and touched the only contact it showed. The guard captain's phone rang. He checked the caller, then looked directly at me. The captain answered with one word, "Owner." He lowered his raised hand, then turned around. Every Anchor Point guard turned with him. The line that had faced Curbside now faced Cullen's vandals. Cullen's smile stayed on his face after the room had stopped supporting it. The system panel finished opening. Anchor Point. SE Security, 67% control. Control value, $392 million. The captain removed the black gold clip from his jacket and dropped it beneath Cullen's shoe. "Which one wants to keep lying for him?" the captain asked the vandals. 3 crowbars hit the pavement. Cullen snapped, "Luther Marr pays Anchor Point." He pulled a black gold payment card from his coat and held it toward the captain. "Double the shift, remove him." The captain took the card. Cullen's smile returned. Then the captain slid it beneath the bent Curbside sign so the repair crew could level the base. "Useful thickness," the captain judged. The guards laughed once. Cullen did not. The captain looked at me. "Derek Halstead controls Anchor Point." Cullen pointed at the guards again. "I gave you an order." Nobody moved for him. I walked past the line and stopped beside the bent Curbside sign. The vandal holding it kept his arms locked above the creator. "Put it down carefully," I told him. He lowered the sign without dropping it. Megan stepped through the broken doorway. "You protected her after helping break my office." The vandal looked at the paint on his gloves. "I was hired to scare people." The sign slipped. Megan pointed toward the toolbox. "Repair it, replace the glass you broke, finish before sunrise, and I will give you 1 paid probation shift." The vandal stared at her. "You are hiring me? I am charging you first." He picked up the drill while the other vandals watched him start. I gave them the same choice. Repair what you damaged, or leave your tools and walk past Anchor Point empty-handed. They looked at Cullen. Cullen checked his phone twice. He gave the vandals no counteroffer. Brooms, drills, and replacement boards came off the trucks. The one on probation scrubbed Seth's painted face off the launch wall first. Then he repainted every worker name the crew had covered. The book reviewer watched her name return and handed him a clean brush. He took it without looking at the camera. Freya moved her camera closer to their hands. "No confession tour," she told her viewers. "Watch who fixes what he broke." The chat stopped asking for arrests and started naming the workers who had switched sides. Holden's scratched blue sedan pulled into the curb lane. He climbed out and pointed at the repair crew. "I warned you Luther would hit the office." Megan handed him the bent half of the old sign. "Hold this." Holden caught it by reflex. "I did not come to do labor." Nobody answered, so he held the sign anyway. Tatum walked toward Cullen with the torn wristband wrapped around her fingers. "You paid a father to lie about a sick child," she told him. Cullen glanced at Freya's camera. "I paid a medical bill. The father chose his wording." The repaired sign behind him lit one letter at a time. Cullen tried to leave before the final letter came on. The guard captain stepped aside for me and remained in Cullen's path. I looked at the captain. "Send half your people to Lakeview Estates, remove the black gold trucks, nobody touches the residence." The captain gave the order, and 6 guards drove toward Lakeview. Yvette called from Lakeview 2 minutes later. Her voice stayed calm. Metal hammered in the background. "Your new guards arrived," Yvette reported. "Cullen's men dropped their tools before they reached my coffee." Tatum heard the last word. "She saved the coffee?" Yvette answered through the speaker. "I saved the gate. The coffee has better security now." Tatum took the phone. "Send the damage list. The coffee can wait." Then she ended the call. The vandal on probation pointed toward Cullen's lead truck. "They sent us from the Mar Capital warehouse," he told Megan. "The night crew is still there. They owe everyone 2 weeks." That was enough. We reached the Mar Capital warehouse before the first repair cart could leave. Cullen was already on the loading floor, standing in front of the gate with the warehouse fixer beside him. Dozens of workers waited behind damaged carts while Freya kept her camera on their hands. The worker with the cracked wheel shoved it across the concrete. It stopped against Cullen's shoe. 2 weeks of wages, the worker demanded. "Pay us before that cart moves." Cullen kicked the wheel aside. "Payment clears after the Vaughn engagement closes." Tatum put Philip on speaker and held the phone toward the loading floor. "Listen to what your deal is buying." The worker ripped off his black gold badge and dropped it on the cracked wheel. "My rent is not marrying anybody." Philip's voice came through the phone. "Those workers are paid through Mar Capital." "Then pay them," Tatum answered. Silence came back. "I placed $20,000 from Curtis's stolen commission on the first cart. Curbside and Lakeview need repairs. First crew through the gate gets paid tonight." The worker checked the cash, then looked at Cullen. "That covers the shift you already stole." Cullen planted both hands on the cart. "Move this, and Luther blacklists every person here." The worker climbed onto the forklift behind it and hit the horn. Cullen held his ground until the forks lifted the cracked cart toward his knees. Then he jumped aside in front of Freya's camera. The worker drove past him. The guards watched the worker pass. Nobody reached for him. A second cart followed. Then a third rolled over Cullen's dropped sponsor banner and carried tools toward the gate. The fixer shouted for Anchor Point to stop them. The guards stayed beside the exit and let each worker choose. Megan pointed the departing crews toward Curbside and Lakeview. Freya filmed names, tools, and paid assignments instead of another speech. Cullen grabbed the first worker's sleeve as the forklift cleared the gate. The worker pulled free and tossed the cracked wheel into Cullen's arms. "Repair something yourself." Cullen caught it against his jacket. Grease crossed the black gold crest. Philip finally spoke through Tatum's phone. "This proves the engagement needs to close sooner." Tatum looked at the last cart leaving. "You tied their wages to my answer." "I protected the financing," Philip replied. Tatum raised the torn wristband toward Cullen in the phone. "Then I am the risk." She ended the call while Philip was still ordering her home. The warehouse gate stayed open. Cullen stood inside it holding a wheel nobody wanted. My phone rang next. Dustin Astor, my friend from the sealed office, appeared on video from a resort curb. His wedding clothes were stuffed inside a black trash bag. Behind him, staff carried the flower arch back through locked doors. "Derek," Dustin said, "they canceled the venue." He looked at the bag, then at the clock above the entrance. "The ceremony starts in 2 hours. Dustin stood outside Seabrook Resort with his wedding clothes in a trash bag. He was my friend from the sealed office. 2 hours before his ceremony, Mar pressure had turned him into curbside luggage. A resort executive stood beside the locked entrance and ordered my taxi moved. "Take your friend's trash and leave," the executive told me. "Seabrook has better guests arriving." Black gold cars already filled the main drive. Philip Vaughn and Luther Marr watched from the upper terrace while staff dumped Dustin's flowers. I kept the taxi in the marked guest lane. "Return his flowers, clothes, and deposit," I told the executive. "Then the lane clears." The executive slapped my roof. "A parasite does not give instructions at my resort." He pointed toward a pedestrian ramp. "Reverse through there. Mar vehicles need this lane. People need the ramp." The executive scanned the driver code on my window and opened a direct removal ride for Dustin's bags. Then he filed 1 star when I refused the pedestrian ramp. Qualified, review, pedestrian, access, protected. A property panel opened on my phone. I read the first line and walked through the locked doors. The executive hurried after me. Security will remove you. Anchor point. Security guards entered behind Dustin carrying the flower arch from the curb. The executive pointed at me. The guards walked around him and set the arch beside the aisle. I faced the resort staff gathered around the dark ballroom. Put the arch back, I ordered. Reset the chairs. Bring Dustin everything you dumped outside. The executive laughed. Nobody touches that room. Ballroom lights came on. He ran to the control panel and shut them off again. I touched the property command on my phone. The lights returned, brighter than before. Staff rolled the flower arch back toward the aisle. Caterers turned their carts around. A worker carried Dustin's garment bag out of the trash pile and handed it to him with both hands. Another worker rescued the wedding cake from a service cart headed outside. Dustin and Bethany still sat together in frosting. The executive reached for the cake. The worker turned away from him and carried it into the ballroom. He kept giving orders. His staff kept passing him. The system panel finished loading. Seabrook Resort. Full ownership. The executive looked at the moving chairs and finally checked my phone. His mouth stayed open while the wedding returned around him. Your better guests can wait outside, I told him. Anchor Point escorted the black gold cars out of the main drive. Dustin's flowers came back in while Mars cars rolled out. Dustin gripped the garment bag. You bought the resort? The resort bought the review. He looked toward the ballroom. Bethany is still inside. That part stays yours. I called Holden, the humiliated suitor still helping out of spite. He answered with irritation already loaded. This better count toward the favor. Bring a suit to Seabrook. 20 minutes later, Holden arrived in a white dinner jacket and black shirt. His tie was wrong for every wedding I had seen. He stepped from his scratched blue sedan and looked at Dustin's wrinkled wedding party. Why is everyone dressed like a funeral? Holden asked. Dustin looked at Holden's jacket. Why are you dressed like a casino owner? Holden handed him a clean tie. Because Derek gave me 14 minutes. The original best man had left when the venue canceled. Holden happened to stand closest when the rings needed a pocket. Dustin gave them to him. Holden stared at the box. I came with a tie. You brought pockets, I told him. Holden tucked the rings into his jacket. This pays 1/4 of the favor. I looked at the white dinner jacket. Generous math. The ceremony began again. Bethany Lorne, Dustin's bride, stood beneath the restored arch with a phone beside her bouquet. Her cancelled wedding livestream still had thousands of viewers waiting for an ending. A pinned replay showed Bethany telling them Dustin could not protect one reservation. Now the same viewers watched staff rebuild the room around him. She touched Dustin's wrinkled lapel. You fixed it. Dustin looked toward me. We fixed the room. Then he faced her. The marriage is still the question. Bethany lowered the phone, but she left the stream running beside the flowers. Holden stood behind Dustin with the rings and whispered, I hate this job. Dustin answered without turning. You volunteered by arriving dressed like that. Holden looked at his white jacket. This jacket costs more than the cake. The cake worker heard him and moved the cart farther away. The officiant reached the vows. That was when a borrowed convoy pushed through the outer gate. Cody Axley stepped from the lead car wearing a black gold lapel pin. He was Bethany's supposedly rich ex, and the pin made his Mar backing visible before he opened his mouth. Cody walked down the aisle before the engine stopped. Bethany, Cody called, you do not have to settle for an employee rescued by a taxi driver. Dustin did not move from the altar while Bethany tightened her grip on the bouquet. Cody opened both arms. Come with me. I have the house, the cars, and Mar backing. He has a borrowed ballroom. The resort staff looked at me. Cody missed that part. Cody tossed a velvet key pouch onto the aisle. There is a lake house inside that promise. Dustin cannot give you a parking space. Dustin looked at the pouch, then at Bethany. Did he promise this before today? Bethany did not answer. Cody smiled at the silence. She called me when the venue canceled. She knew who could actually finish the wedding. Holden leaned toward me. This man crashed a wedding and brought real estate accessories. I kept my eyes on Dustin. He is building the stage. Cody pointed at Dustin's wrinkled suit. Look at him. His best man is a stranger in the wrong jacket. Holden lifted the ring box. I am becoming less neutral. Dustin asked Bethany one question. Did you invite him? Bethany looked at Cody, then at the live phone beside her flowers. Yes, she admitted. The ballroom went quiet around one clear answer. Dustin's jaw tightened. Is there more? Bethany pressed one hand against her stomach. The baby might be his. Dustin closed his eyes once and no one joked. Bethany stepped away from the altar and walked toward Cody. Cody turned to the cameras like he had won a company. Cody pointed at the resort executive. Clear the aisle. This ceremony is over. The executive reached for Dustin. A cake cart rolled between them. The cake worker planted both hands on the handle. The groom is still using the room. I looked at Dustin and he stayed at the altar. The executive stepped back. Cody's smile tightened. Luther Marr paid for this resort. The staff kept resetting the aisle behind him. Cody pointed toward the lead car. Fine, Bethany, get in my car. The lead driver raised the event microphone instead of opening a door. Your entrance package ended when she crossed the aisle, the driver announced. The remaining balance is still unpaid. Cody glanced toward the terrace. Charge Luther Marr. The driver checked his payment screen. Marr covered the arrival deposit. You promised the exit. Cody reached for the microphone. Drive now, I will handle it later. The first driver removed his black gold cap and dropped it on Cody's velvet key pouch. Later does not fuel a convoy. A second driver pulled the rented flower boxes from an SUV and loaded them onto the resort cart. A third folded the black gold door flags while Bethany watched. Cody pointed at the remaining cars. Those stay. Engines started around him. The convoy rolled out before he finished the order. One hired photographer lowered his camera and asked who would cover overtime. Cody pointed at Luther, but Luther had already stepped off the terrace. Two hired guests removed their black gold pins and followed the drivers. A third pressed the unpaid flower invoice against Cody's chest before leaving through the side door. Cody turned toward Bethany. The cars are a misunderstanding. Bethany looked at the empty drive behind him. Philip Vaughn's voice carried through the open terrace doors. Good, Philip told Luther Marr. Derek chose the wedding. Move Tatum's engagement forward. Tatum stepped through the doors before either man ended the conversation. You canceled Dustin's wedding to test where Derek would run, she told her father. Philip did not deny it. I tested his priorities. Tatum held up the black gold wristband. I am not the prize behind the other door. Luther looked toward the ballroom where Cody's convoy was disappearing. Your choices keep costing your family. Tatum walked past both men. Then stop buying them. She returned to the aisle and stood beside Dustin's empty groomsman line. Cody tried one last order. Block the exits, he snapped at the two hired guests still beside him. One removed his black gold pin. My booking ended. Resort staff opened both doors. Cody's remaining guests left through them. Bethany watched the last SUV leave. Then she turned back toward Dustin. I panicked, Bethany pleaded. Cody lied to me. We can still finish the ceremony. She offered him the bouquet again. Dustin took the ring box from Holden and placed it between the flowers. You made your choice with an audience, Dustin told her. I am making mine with the same audience. He walked down the aisle alone and left under his own name. Bethany's face changed when the live comments stopped defending her. She grabbed the phone from beside the bouquet. Derek's guards threatened me, Bethany announced to her viewers. They trapped a pregnant woman and attacked Cody. Freya Reese, the creator who had quit Videcast on air, aimed Curbside Media's feed at the bridesmaids instead of Bethany. Bethany waved them closer. Tell everyone what happened. The first bridesmaid removed the ribbon from her bouquet and placed the flowers at Bethany's feet. We watched you leave Dustin, the bridesmaid told her. Bethany pointed at Derek's guards. They scared me. The bridesmaid shook her head. You asked us to cry on camera before Cody arrived. A second bridesmaid returned her bouquet. You gave us the caption this morning. Then a third bouquet landed beside the first two. Nuns stood behind Bethany's camera as the flower pile grew and her audience disappeared. One bridesmaid took the phone from Bethany's hand and turned it toward the empty aisle. Nobody trapped her, she told the viewers. Dustin walked away. Bethany reached for the phone. The bridesmaid ended the stream. Freya pinned Curbside's creator intake beneath her own feed. The book reviewer from the Meter Ghost battle appeared in a small corner window. Put your name on the application. They actually use it. The chat filled the form before Bethany found another camera. Creators who had watched Seth lose his sponsor wall began tagging their own partners. Megan messaged from Rivergate Tower, 12 creator applications. The client wants the wedding recovery campaign. A second message followed. Dustin said use his name. Keyed Bethany off the campaign. Bethany had tried to sell a false abuse story. She bought Curbside Tomorrow's payroll instead. Cody's last hired guests reached my taxi outside. One scanned the window code and opened a direct ride for Cody. Give him the keys, the guest ordered. He needs the silver car for the exit shot. Cody stood behind him with no convoy, no guards, and no bride. I locked the taxi. He can walk out with the reputation he brought in. The guest shoved the rating screen toward me. You accepted the ride. I accepted a passenger. I did not sell the car. He filed 1 star for abandoning wedding guests and refusing a paid vehicle request. Qualified, review, vehicle control retained. The next reward appeared before Cody finished threatening my account. Summit Surgical, partners, 20% control. Control value, $620 million. The screen showed $620 million before my phone rang and ended the celebration. Megan's face appeared. The noise behind her had changed from office repairs to a hospital corridor. "Derek," Megan said, "my mother has 18 hours for the operation." Eileen Doyle was Megan's mother, and the teacher who made me put my name on every page. I locked the summit screen, left Cody beside the empty drive, and pointed the silver taxi at the hospital. 18 hours were already running. Megan was waiting beside the hospital doors when my silver taxi stopped. She was Eileen Doyle's daughter and the operator who kept Curbside Media alive while I fought outside it. Her face looked controlled, her hands did not. The elevator opened before I reached her. A summit specialist team stepped into the corridor, and Curtis Dempsey intercepted them first. Curtis was the same boss who stole my campaign, erased my name, and lost his office inside my building. Now he took the lead nurse by the elbow and pointed toward Eileen's room. "I arranged the team," Curtis announced. "Keep them moving." A hospital worker thanked him for reaching Summit so quickly. Curtis accepted the credit without blinking. The doctor met Megan beside Eileen's door and kept the medical part blunt. "Her condition can be treated. The Summit team must begin within 18 hours. One team. 18 hours. Curtis was already trying to put his name on both. "I still look after people who once worked for me," Curtis told the corridor. Megan stared at him. "You did not call Summit." Curtis lowered his voice. "The team is here, Megan. That is what matters." A flower basket sat beside him with a card facing the corridor. "From Curtis Dempsey and Dempsey Creative." Megan turned the card face down, and Curtis turned it back. A hospital worker asked whether he was Eileen's family contact. Curtis answered before Megan could. "I am the employer making this possible." Megan stepped between him and the worker. "I am her daughter. He is the man who threatened her insurance." The worker moved the family chair away from Curtis and placed it beside Megan. Curtis stayed standing. His smile tightened. Dustin arrived behind me carrying the cardboard box from Rivergate Tower. The box had held my desk when Curtis threw me out. Now it held Curbside's first printed campaign, with every worker's name beneath the headline. Dustin set it beside Eileen's door. "She asked to see the finished page," he told Megan. "I figured we should bring the version nobody stole." Curtis reached for the top sheet. "That account came through Dempsey Creative." Dustin closed the box before Curtis touched it. "The client signed with Curbside," Dustin told him. "Your name is absent for a reason." Two former Dempsey workers stepped beside Dustin. Curtis looked at the three of them and kept his hands to himself. Megan touched the top page once. Then Curtis stepped between her and the box. "I can keep the Summit team here," he told her. "Luther Marr has people who answer his calls." Curtis glanced toward the waiting staff before adding, "Thank me later." Freya stood near the elevators with Curbside's creators. She had kept every camera outside Eileen's treatment area. One gossip creator aimed a phone toward the door anyway. Freya blocked the lens with her sign-up clipboard. "Film the man taking credit," Freya told him. "The patient stays off your feed." The creator turned his camera toward Curtis. Curtis saw the lens, lifted his chin, and kept accepting credit. Tatum reached the corridor carrying 2 coffees and the torn black gold wristband. A Vaughn assistant followed with a garment bag and a cream invitation. The assistant held the bag toward her. "Your father moved the fitting. The engagement schedule is changing." Tatum kept both coffees. "Then change it without me." The assistant glanced at me. "Philip Vaughn expects an answer tonight." Philip called before the assistant finished, and Tatum put him on speaker. Philip's voice came hard. "Leave the hospital. Vaughn House can close every Curbside contract tied to this family." Tatum looked through the glass at Eileen's bed. "Then close them. You are choosing a driver's emergency over your engagement. I am choosing the person on the bed over your seating chart." Philip lowered his voice. "Cullen will hear about this." Tatum lifted the torn wristband toward the phone. "He already sent his answer." She ended the call and handed the unopened garment bag back. "My answer is still no. The fitting changes, nothing." The assistant left with the bag. Tatum stayed beside Megan. Curtis watched Tatum choose the corridor, then pulled Megan toward the far wall. I stopped behind the open divider before he saw me. Megan saw my taxi jacket. Her expression did not change. "Good operator." Curtis spoke softly enough for privacy and loudly enough for vanity. "Transfer Curbside's clients back to Dempsey Creative," he told Megan. "Then come to my room tonight. I make the call, and your mother gets the team." Megan looked toward Eileen's door. "Say the price again." Curtis smiled. "You heard me." Megan kept her eyes on Eileen's door. "I need to know which part buys my mother." His smile widened when Megan asked him to repeat the price. "All Curbside clients," Curtis repeated. "Every active account. Then you spend tonight with me. After that, I keep Summit from leaving." The corridor heard him, and Freya's gossip creator lowered his phone. Dustin's hands closed around the cardboard box. Tatum set both coffees on the floor. I stepped around the divider. Curtis's face tightened. "You brought the taxi driver into a medical decision?" Megan faced him. "I brought the man whose work you keep stealing." Curtis straightened his jacket. This is beyond office games. Her mother needs access Derek cannot buy. He pointed at my GoCab jacket. His account is suspended. His company survives on pity streams. I am offering the only adult solution in this corridor. Tatum stepped forward. Your adult solution asked a daughter to rent herself by the night. Curtis looked at the watching staff and tried to shrink the demand. I asked for loyalty. Megan cut him off. You named the room. The gossip creator raised his phone again. Curtis saw the lens and doubled down. Fine, he announced. Megan signs Curbside's clients to me, spends tonight proving cooperation, and I keep Summit here. That is the price. The doctor stopped beside the elevators. Freya's creator kept the lens on Curtis. I looked at the doctor. Is the team waiting on anything besides authorization? The doctor nodded toward the elevators. The Summit director has the card. Curtis spread one hand toward Megan. Because I called. The older Summit director stepped away from the elevators with one white authorization card. Curtis moved first. Good, Curtis told the director. I am the contact who arranged this. The director walked past him. He stopped in front of me and placed the authorization card in my hand. Mr. Halstead, why was the Summit owner kept waiting? Curtis turned slowly as the staff stopped thanking him. Curtis reached for the authorization card. The director closed his hand around empty air. Your name is not on this case, the director told him. I pressed my thumb to the card and the treatment doors opened. The nurses moved Eileen's bed before Curtis found another lie. Megan walked beside her mother until the marked line. The specialist team took over there. Treatment started. Eileen's bed crossed the marked line. For 10 seconds, nobody else mattered. Curtis found his voice on the 11th. He owns a minority stake, Curtis blurted. Mar Capital can block this. He called Luther Mar and put the phone on speaker. Luther answered with no greeting. Curtis rushed through the story. Derek is using Summit against us. Tell the director to stop. Luther's reply came cold. You lost Rivergate, the creator launch, and now a hospital corridor. Stop using my name. The call ended. Curtis lowered the dead phone. His hand shook against the case. Megan stepped in front of him. You asked for my company and my body while my mother waited. Then she slapped him. Curtis raised his hand, but I caught his wrist before it moved. Treatment is running, I told him. You are the only thing leaving. Curtis pulled once. I kept the wrist where it was. The director looked at the hallway staff. Nobody moved for Curtis. Freya turned the gossip creator's camera toward the exit. Here is the correction, she told him. The creator faced his own phone. Curtis Dempsey did not call the team. Freya made him finish. Derek Halstead authorized treatment. Then she shut down the feed. Dustin opened the cardboard box and lifted the first printed campaign page. The nurses rolled Eileen past the viewing window before the treatment doors closed. Her eyes found the page, then Curtis. Her voice was weak. It still carried. That is the man who stole Derek's campaign. Curtis looked toward the elevator. Eileen kept speaking. Now he tried to steal my operation. Curtis spread both hands. She is frightened. She does not understand the arrangement. Eileen looked straight at him. I taught Derek and Megan to put their names on honest work. I understand a thief. Megan held the campaign page against the glass. Every worker's name faced her mother. Eileen read the top line and nodded once. Keep the names there. The doors closed between us and the specialist team. Curtis backed toward the elevator while every person in the corridor watched him. I released his wrist and he tried one final bargain. Derek, we can rebuild Dempsey Creative together. I know the clients. I know the market. Megan picked up the Curbside master key from her lanyard and placed it in my palm. Curbside already has an operator, she told Curtis. And you are blocking the elevator. Dustin pressed the call button, and the doors opened behind Curtis. He entered alone while the staff moved around him toward Eileen's treatment room. The elevator doors closed on his next offer. Tatum picked up the coffees. Both had gone cold. My father is moving the engagement again, she told me. He thinks the wedding proved you will always choose someone else's emergency. I nodded toward the treatment doors. He canceled Dustin's venue to test that. Tatum looked at the treatment doors. Then he learned the wrong lesson. Megan looked at the master key in my hand. Go handle Tatum's family, she told me. I can run Curbside and stay with Mom. I looked from the key to Eileen's door. You are doing both? I have workers, Megan replied. That was the point. The operation began before the first hour expired. At dawn, the doctor gave us one sentence. Eileen came through the operation and started recovery. I sat beside Megan until her hands stopped shaking. Curtis had erased my name when I was broke. Eileen's bed moved before he could erase Megan's work. Over the next 26 days, Curbside renewed the client, filled creator desks, and kept every worker name on screen. My direct fares earned no reviews, so control value stayed at 620 million, while Tatum rejected every engagement date. With 7 hours left, Eileen sat at Curbside's live intake table and circled names on the finished campaign. Seth burst through the Rivergate doors with a portable camera and a fresh row of paid one-star posts. "Derek's system is dead," Seth shouted. "His account is suspended, his company is stealing creators, and anyone who signs today goes down with him." Freya turned Seth's camera toward the application wall. "Spell your name clearly," his audience keeps applying while he yells. The first creator signed before Seth finished the threat. A second used his angry livestream as the referral link. Seth tried to block the table. Eileen slid her campaign page beneath his arm and tapped the credit line. "You still work for the man who steals names?" Eileen asked. Seth looked at the cameras. "Curtis built Derek." A delivery worker entered with another flower basket from Curtis. Eileen crossed out Curtis's card in front of Seth and handed the basket back. "Take these to the summit nurses. They did useful work." The intake room laughed, and 3 more applications hit the wall. Seth grabbed the basket. Freya took it from him and pointed the delivery worker toward the elevator. "Nurses first, parasites can buy their own flowers." Before Seth found another camera, the Vaughn house doors opened on the lobby screen. A Vaughn assistant walked into Curbside carrying a cream gala invitation and a garment bag. Monica's executive seal covered both. The assistant held them toward Tatum. "Your father moved the engagement to tonight. Monica Vaughn controls every door at the flagship." Tatum took the invitation, tore the response card in half, and left the garment bag in Seth's arms. "Good," she told me. "Now we know which door to hit." My system had 6 hours and 40 minutes left when Philip Vaughn handed me a check for $500,000. He met me beside the original silver taxi and kept his driver between us. Philip was Tatum's father, the man who treated her engagement like a financing agreement with a dress code. He held the check by one corner. "Bring Tatum to the Vaughn house gala," Philip instructed. "Stand beside her as the disposable boyfriend. When she rejects you for Cullen, smile, accept it, and leave." I read the amount again. $500,000 for public humiliation. Philip had finally found a service I enjoyed selling. "What happens if she refuses, Cullen?" I asked. Philip's mouth tightened. "She will not." He pushed the check against my chest. "The room needs to see her choose the family deal. You are there to make the other choice look cheap." Philip pointed toward the Vaughn house invitation on his phone. "At 11:30, Tatum rejects you under the family crest. At midnight, Mara closes the financing. Smile for both cameras." He had scheduled her choice down to the minute, then called the arrangement stability. I took the check while Philip watched it disappear into my jacket. "You understand the instructions?" I tucked the check deeper into my jacket. "I understand the amount." His driver opened the car door. Philip climbed inside and told him, "The driver is handled." Cullen Marr arrived 4 minutes later. Cullen stepped from a black car with fresh confidence and a smaller check. The wedding collapse had cured nothing. $300,000, he offered. "Disappear before the gala, miss every call from Tatum, leave the city until midnight." I held up Philip's check. "You and Philip should compare instructions." Cullen's eyes narrowed. "What did he tell you?" I took the second check and tapped Philip's signature. "He paid more." Cullen stepped closer. "Tell Tatum you chose the money." I held both signatures toward him. "She can read." Cullen smiled. "Good, let it hurt." Holden's scratched blue sedan stopped behind Cullen's car. Holden Gable climbed out before the engine settled. The humiliated suitor still helped me and complained every time it worked. He snatched Cullen's check and shoved it back toward him. "Take this. Derek already owes me one bad decision." Cullen kept both hands at his sides. "He accepted." Holden turned on me. "Unaccepted." I took the check from Holden and slid both payments into the clear campaign sleeve. The signatures faced the windshield. No refunds. Before Holden could argue again, a woman wearing a Vaughn House executive badge opened my rear door. Monica Vaughn was Tatum's aunt and the Vaughn House chief financial officer. She controlled tonight's flagship atrium and saw Cullen, Holden, and $800,000 fighting beside my taxi. Monica looked at me first. "Philip hired a driver, not a street fixer. Clear these men and take me to the flagship." Megan heard her through the dashboard call from Rivergate. "Keep both signatures visible," Megan told me. "Their mouths will explain the rest." Monica stared at the speaker. "Who invited an employee into my ride?" Megan answered. "The company you just threatened." Cullen left for the gala before Holden found another refund method. Holden pointed at the sleeve once, failed to move it, and returned to his sedan. Monica shut the rear door. "Now drive." "Take me to the flagship," Monica ordered. "Use the transit lane." The lane was closed to private cars. "I kept us in traffic. I am staying on the legal route." Monica looked up from her phone. "Philip hired you." I checked her in the mirror. "Philip hired a performance. This is a ride." She tapped the divider with one manicured finger. "The gala begins in under an hour. Use the lane." I pointed through the windshield. "The camera above it sends the ticket to me." Monica leaned forward. "Vaughn House spends more with Curbside than you earn in 10 years. I can end every contract before we reach the next light." Megan answered through the dashboard speaker. Threat received, the driver still has a license. Monica killed the call and pointed toward the closed lane again. Do it! Stayed in traffic. Monica opened my driver profile. The suspension banner still sat across it. She smiled. GoCab already knows what you are. Kept my eyes on the lane. The platform knows what Luther paid it to repeat. Monica selected 1 star. Unsafe, she dictated. Insubordinate. Refused an executive instruction and endangered a time-sensitive company event. I told her, the instruction was illegal. Monica pressed submit. Hired help does not correct owners. My screen flashed. QUAIIIIIIIIII. FIDE review. Closed transit lane refused. A second panel opened behind it. I locked the screen before reading the reward. Monica saw the flash. Good, she announced. Maybe this one finishes your account. I stopped at the Vaughn House flagship atrium. Monica stepped out first and marched toward the main entrance. A service worker moved to open the main doors. Monica flicked 2 fingers toward the side corridor. Staff used the side. The workers stepped back and watched her test the badge. Her badge flashed red. She tried again. The reader stayed red. Reset this, Monica ordered the nearest floor host. The floor host looked past her and opened the main doors for me. Monica followed with her badge raised. Inside, a long wall displayed the Vaughn House leadership names above the gala stage. Monica's name disappeared while she was pointing at it. The center chair at the head table moved away from her place setting. A worker pulled it out for me. Monica laughed once. Philip arranged a joke. I sat. The staff began removing the CFO nameplate from her office door across the atrium. Monica stopped laughing. Put that back, she ordered. The worker carrying the nameplate paused. Monica pointed at him. Choose carefully, I hired you. The worker looked at her dead badge, then carried the plate toward the boxes. You hired the role, he answered. The role changed. A second worker removed Monica's reserved parking card from the gala desk and placed it beneath the empty nameplate. Nobody stopped. I opened the reward panel. VAUGN, House, 46% control. Control value, $980 million. I was $20 million short, and the system timer kept running beside the number. Monica stared at the screen in my hand. You cannot fire me from my family company. I looked at the dead badge between her fingers. The badge answered first. Then I gave the staff one instruction. Clear Monica's office. Keep the gala open. Her boxes use the front doors. 2 workers crossed the atrium with empty boxes. One was the service worker Monica had ordered away from the front entrance minutes earlier. She recognized him and pointed at the side hall. Use the staff corridor. He carried the first empty box through the center of the gala instead. Monica blocked them. I am the chief financial officer. One worker held up the removed nameplate. You are on the wall. The boxes kept moving. Monica called Philip. He answered from the gala entrance and saw her office being emptied. Stop this, Monica demanded. Your driver stole control of Vaughn House. Philip looked at me, then at the checks visible through the taxi windshield outside. His expression barely changed. Do not disrupt Tatum's engagement, he told Monica. Monica stared at the phone. He fired me. Philip ended the call when Monica needed him most. Family Loyalty had a smaller budget than expected. Monica reached for the owner chair. The floor host moved it back before her hand arrived. Your boxes are ready, the host told her. The first box crossed the atrium during the guest arrival. The second carried the gold desk plaque she had used to lecture service workers. Monica tried to cover it with her coat. The worker kept walking. Tatum entered through the opposite doors and saw her aunt following her own office boxes. Then she saw the 2 checks. Megan had brought them inside and placed them on the gala table under clear sleeves. Yvette March stood beside her, already on a finance call. Yvette was the Lakeview neighbor who had pulled the first Mar investment after Cullen attacked my taxi. I can replace the remaining Mar financing tonight, Yvette told Philip. Tatum walks free, or my money walks first. Tatum looked from Yvette to me. Holden arrived behind her and tried one last time to return Cullen's check. He lifted the $300,000 sleeve. This one belongs to the idiot in black. Cullen took one step back. Derek accepted it. Philip touched the larger sleeve. He accepted mine first. Neither man explained the purchase, so Tatum picked up both checks. She read Philip's signature. Then she read Cullen's. The guests nearest her backed away from both men. Nobody stood beside either signature. How many people bought you today? She asked me. I answered, 2. Her fingers tightened around the sleeves. Tatum asked, what did you promise? Looked at Philip and Cullen. Both were watching her instead of me. They paid for public performances, I told her. Ask them on the stage. Tatum lowered both checks. You could answer me now, she said. I nodded toward both buyers. They should own their instructions. Philip cut in before she could answer. Derek understands the purpose of tonight. Cullen added, he understands money better than loyalty. Both men smiled. Cullen had already asked what Philip told me, so neither knew the other instruction. Yvette ended her finance call. The replacement capital is ready. Tatum looked at her. Another price. Perfect. Then she looked back at me. Did you come for me, Derek, or the deal? I kept the answer blunt. Your choice stays yours. Tatum tightened her grip on the sleeves. That was not the question. She carried both checks toward the gala stage without waiting for me. Philip watched her leave and smiled at Cullen. Megan stood beside my chair. You chose the public collision, she reminded me. I watched Tatum take the checks to the stage. I know. Megan nodded toward her. Then survive the opening question. The atrium screens turned black. Seth Dre appeared across every one of them in another borrowed suit. He was the man behind the paid reviews and the public face of Luther's smear machine. A counter opened beside my suspended GoCab profile. Coordinated review accounts, 10,000. Seth grinned into the live camera. At midnight, Derek Halstead loses the driver profile, the fake billionaire story, and every person still standing beside him. One-star reviews began filling the screen in rows. My system timer reached 6 hours as Tatum stepped onto the stage carrying both checks. Tatum stepped onto the engagement stage carrying both checks. The first one carried Philip Vaughn's signature and $500,000. The second carried Cullen Marr's signature and $300,000. 10,000 one-star reviews kept filling the screen behind her. Tatum faced her father first. What did you pay Derek to do? Philip looked at the investors, the Vaughn house staff, and Luther Marr beside the stage. Then he raised his voice for the room. I paid him to bring you here as a disposable boyfriend, Philip announced. You were supposed to reject him, choose Cullen, and prove this family still controls its commitments. Tatum lifted the larger check. You paid a man to let me humiliate him so your financing looked clean. Philip spread one hand. I paid for stability. Tatum looked toward the Vaughn house staff. Did any of you hear me agree? The floor host lowered the family crest card and shook his head. Philip snapped. Employees do not vote on family decisions. Tatum faced him again. Neither do financiers. Tatum turned to Cullen. What did you buy? Cullen smiled at the audience. Cameras had always made him louder. I paid Derek $300,000 to disappear before the gala, Cullen admitted. He was supposed to ignore you until midnight and tell you the money mattered more. Tatum looked at both checks. Opposite instructions, Philip cut in. Mine came first. Cullen snapped. Mine protected the engagement. Philip turned on him. You paid the man I hired to appear. You hired him to stand beside her, Cullen shot back. I paid him to leave. 3 investors lowered their crest cards. 2 Vaughn house workers removed the engagement crest from the backdrop while the buyers kept arguing. They started arguing over which purchase owned me better. Tatum let them finish before she looked at me. You kept every dollar? I answered. Yes. The nearest investor looked from one signature to the other and moved his chair back. Cullen pointed at me. There, he sold you twice. Tatum kept her eyes on mine. Did either man buy my answer? I told her. You never offered it. Her shoulders loosened. Philip stepped toward her. Tatum, do not turn this into another scene. She held up both checks. You brought receipts. Then Tatum placed the checks in Megan's curbside launch case. Keep the money, she told me. They paid $800,000 to explain themselves. Cullen's smile vanished. Tatum removed the black gold wristband from her pocket and dropped it into his open ring box. I reject the engagement. Cullen pulled out his phone. I will match both checks. Walk off this stage with me and the money is yours. Tatum looked at the $800,000 already sitting in Megan's case. You still think the number was the problem? Cullen raised the offer to $1 million in front of the investors. Tatum closed his ring box over the broken wristband. No. Cullen reached for her arm, and Tatum slapped his hand away before I moved. Then she crossed the stage, caught my jacket, and kissed me in front of both buyers. The front row turned their phones from the checks to Cullen's face. Philip pointed at the doors. Remove him. Vaughn house staff stayed in place. Philip raised his voice. This is my family's flagship. The floor host looked at me instead, so I gave one instruction. Keep the doors open. The main doors opened wider. Philip stood there ignored inside the flagship he had claimed. Luther Marr stepped forward. He was the financier who had lost Anchor Point security and still spoke like uniforms belonged to him. Guards, Luther ordered. Clear the stage. The Anchor Point line turned toward the exits and left my side untouched. Facing Luther, the guard captain answered. The owner gave no removal order. Luther looked at the uniforms that once carried his badges. Cullen grabbed his father's sleeve. Make them move. Luther gave the order again, but nobody moved for him. Holden Gable pushed through the investor row wearing another expensive jacket with the wrong attitude. He ripped the black gold sponsor pin from his lapel and dropped it beside Cullen's ring. My family name leaves Marr tonight, Holden announced. I refuse to finance another proposal built around someone else's car. Cullen glared at him. You helped create this. Holden looked at the checks inside Megan's case. I learned after the first public disaster, you made it a hobby. Yvette March ended her finance call beside the stage. The remaining Mar commitment is withdrawn, Yvette told Luther. You have 0 from me. Luther's phone began ringing before she lowered hers. He declined the first call, the second replaced it, then a third. The calls kept coming from investors who had heard Yvette. Seth Dre shouted from the livestream platform. None of this matters! Seth was the man behind the paid reviews. Beside him stood Curtis Dempsey, already stripped of his office and still pretending the smear was a campaign. Curtis pointed at the final warning banner on my GoCab profile. At midnight the driver account closes, Curtis announced. Then we see how much of the Billionaire Act survives without the taxi. Seth lifted both hands toward the review counter as it passed 5,000. My driver profile filled with identical claims: unsafe driver, violent fraud, stolen car, fake owner. Seth had recycled every lie and bought 10,000 copies. My system screen appeared. Review, event, detected, coordinated 1-star attack, qualification pending. By then, the counter had passed 7,000. A final warning banner covered my driver profile. 6 hours remained. One more platform strike would close the account before the system deadline. Curtis pointed at the warning and smiled at Seth. Finish it. I want the campaign line back when he disappears. Seth laughed when the GoCab warning stayed red. Your ownership tricks cannot save you from 10,000 customers, he shouted. I looked at the live camera. Customers? Seth answered before anyone could stop him. I bought every review on that screen, he announced. 10,000 accounts, 10,000 one-star reports because you refused to leave Tatum, surrender the gala, and crawl back into your taxi. The fair system had enough. Qualified review, COERIFU removal, refused. The review counter stopped. A new reward filled every screen in the atrium. GoCab, 51% control. Control value, $2,220,000,000. Funder, tier unlocked. All system rewards permanent. The deadline was beaten. Every reward stayed mine. Seth stared at the GoCab ownership line. That is fake. His own livestream control disappeared. The screen behind him asked for my owner command. I took the microphone from his stand. Restore every suspended driver, I ordered. Clear the paid reviews. Change the platform name to Fairride. Phones chimed in one wave from the atrium to the street. Red suspension bars vanished. Taxi doors unlocked outside, and a stranded driver accepted Fairride's first family pickup before the old logo finished fading. He raised the active screen through the open doors. 6 passengers got me suspended. 1 family of 4 just put me back to work. The GoCab logo vanished from the stage. Fairride replaced it. Freya Reese stepped onto the livestream platform and turned Seth's abandoned camera toward the drivers outside. She was Curbside's talent-led now. Her creators moved their feeds with her. Fairride is live, Freya announced. Drivers keep their names, their work, and their accounts. The audience left Seth's feed in one visible wave. His sponsor counter dropped to 0 while he kept demanding attention. Seth reached for the microphone. Freya moved it beyond him. You bought the reviews, she reminded him. Derek bought the platform. Curtis reached for the credit again. I created the campaign behind this launch, he announced. Derek worked under my direction. Megan Doyle carried the Curbside launch case to the central screen. She was the operator Curtis had tried to buy beside Eileen's hospital bed. Megan lifted the 2 checks so every camera caught the signatures. Tatum touched the sleeves once, then pushed them back into the case. Keep them, she told me. Curbside has payroll, and both men finally paid for useful work. Then Megan opened the rest of the case. Inside sat the original campaign page Curtis had stolen. Every worker's name appeared beneath mine and Megan's. Former Dempsey workers crossed the stage carrying the finished campaign boards. Each person placed a name card beneath the work they had completed. Dustin Astor arrived carrying the old cardboard box from Rivergate. He placed it beside the screen and opened the flaps. A Fairride founder plaque sat inside. Executive storage, Dustin told me. Holden pointed at the plaque. My proposal created the first public audience. Yvette folded her arms. Your proposal created a dead key fob. Megan stepped between them and reached for the launch control. Move. The people who did the work need the screen. They moved, and Megan played one short voice note. Eileen's recovery voice filled the atrium. Put every name on the page, Derek, then go drive. Megan pressed launch. The campaign Curtis stole filled the Vaughn House wall. The credit line read, Derek Halstead. Megan Doyle, Curbside Media Workers. Below it, Fairride opened its first public route under my name. Curtis lifted his old office badge toward the screen. The badge had been dead for weeks. Take that down, he ordered. Nobody looked at him. The Curbside master key still hung from my ring. Megan tapped it and nodded toward the taxi. Your turn. I closed my hand around it. The original silver taxi waited outside beneath the Fairride screen. Drivers filled both sides of the street. Some had been suspended after refusing unsafe rides, others had watched Seth buy the attacks that punished them. Their phones showed active accounts and the same first route. Tatum walked beside me while Megan kept both checks inside the launch case. Philip followed her to the doors. "You are walking away from your family," he warned. Tatum pointed toward the larger check through the clear sleeve. "You paid Derek to make me choose." Then she pointed toward Cullen's check. "He paid Derek to remove the choice." She left both men watching Curbside keep their money. Cullen looked at the closed ring box. Holden's sponsor pin lay beside it. Luther looked at the open doors, the guards, and the phones he no longer controlled. Seth watched his purchased reviews disappear beneath Fairride's first driver signups. Philip followed until Vaughn House workers carried Monica's boxes between them. Luther checked Yvette's silent phone and stopped. Seth shouted toward Freya's camera. It remained on the drivers. Curtis raised his dead badge. The workers stayed beneath their own names. Alyssa Kern waited beside my taxi. She was the ex who had left me at the curb when the jacket first appeared. Her eyes moved from the Fairride screen to the founder tier value still glowing above the entrance. "I knew you would build something," Alyssa told me. "We can start again." I opened the front passenger door and Alyssa stepped toward it. I held the door for Tatum. "You left when the jacket was visible," I told Alyssa. "It still is." Tatum took the passenger seat and fastened the belt. Alyssa stayed outside while the door closed. I started the same silver taxi Curtis had laughed at. Fair ride drivers filled the street behind us. I was worth $2.22 billion, and the drivers followed.